Well, it has arrived. Welcome, everybody. It is time for Take Me Home 21. West Virginia University's National Letter of Intent signing period has officially begun. Thanks so much for being with us. Our 3-hour program is brought to you by WVU Medicine. And over the next 3 hours, we are going to check out the Mountaineer recruiting class as it grows before our eyes. You can see 7 new Mountaineers have signed on the dotted line already today. That class will continue to grow throughout the course of the day and pretty much should be filled by the time we go off here at noon. Our program lineup today, we'll be chatting with WVU assistant coaches, the head coach, and WVU's athletic director, Shane Lyons, in addition to the director of player personnel, Brian Bennett. I'm Tony Caridi, joined by the signal caller, Jed Drenny. We're going to break it down. Also joining us is Dale Wolfley. He is on location, and we're going to get our thoughts together here, putting this class together. You know, Jed, when you start to take a look at the 2021 class, it's the first official class for Neal Brown in which, put this in context now, that he's been able to recruit from start to finish, or at least that was the plan pre-pandemic. Obviously, because of the pandemic, this is the most unique class for anyone in the country because we've not had the traditional visitation by players, visitation by coaches into schools. It's different, but it is at least the first class they've started from the beginning as they normally put a class together.
Yeah, in other words, Tony, a full cycle, right? Because really recruiting, you're projecting out a couple years ahead. It's all relationship-based, relationship-oriented. You don't just show up and a handful of months later, by virtue of relationships forged or otherwise, sign kids. I mean, you're working on these kids for an extended period of time and on both ends. They're learning about you, you're learning about them through the evaluation process. And the other thing about this, Tony, is we were just getting ready to, quote unquote, or adjusting to the new normal with the early signing period to begin with. That's a novel concept unto itself. So just as you're trying to adjust and get ready to that, we used to do this show in February for a reason, right? But the next thing you know, you find yourself in mid-December.
WVU's Director of Player Personnel, Brian Bennett, will join us. We'll get his take on the makings of the 2021 Mountaineer class. We'll be back with more right after this. Do stay with us.
I think it's important to note that the first round was for our fans and fans enhancement. So this next step is really important for our student athletes. Pushcart Centers, there's several different phases. There's 5 different phases in the Pushcart Center. You know, we're currently finishing up, we call it phase 1, which is the training room as well as the training table area. Phase 2 then goes into the locker room and the visiting locker room area. And some of this is a domino effect. One thing has to be done before the other from a building standpoint. But what it ultimately will have is a larger locker room for our student athletes. It'll also have a lounge area off the locker room for our athletes. It would include more team rooms, updated team rooms, a new Hall of Fame, which would be taken from the back of the building to the front of the building, and then new offices for the coaching staff. I think to remain a viable Power 5 institution, it goes back to our facilities, being able to recruit quality student athletes, being able to retain quality head coaching staff members. You know, these are just part of the ingredients, for our department to continue to be a Power 5 institution and move in the right direction in the future.
The air feels different on fall Saturdays in West Virginia. Familiar roads lead us on early morning drives to a place where we feel alive. And traditions bring together a fierce fan base united by the same passion, West Virginia football. As West Virginia's bank, we've been there and will continue to be there. United Bank, proud to be united with the Mountaineers.
Want to earn free rewards at GoMart? Then you need to get with the program, the GoMart Rewards Program. From free coffee to free snacks, you'll earn rewards with each purchase. And signing up is easy. You can sign up for the program at GoMart.com or by going to the GoMart app and tapping on the rewards icon. Already have a GoMart Rewards card? Be sure it's registered so you can start earning your rewards, because you're not going to want to miss out on all the great freebies. Go to GoMart.com or download the GoMart app to learn more today.
We're doing exciting things at the W Heart and Vascular Institute in advanced heart failure, in valvular heart disease, in atrial fibrillation, and even heart transplantation. We know that if patients can achieve advanced care in their home community, they do better. We provide the entire spectrum of care, and our outcomes are amongst the best in the nation.
Visit mywvuheart.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Take Me Home 21 continues. Tony Caridi along with Jed Drenning. Let's bring in our other partner on the broadcast today. That's Dale Wolfley, who joins us. Wolf, let's get your initial take on this Mountaineer recruiting class that's coming together. What are your thoughts?
Well, the first thing that comes out to me is the overall athleticism that I see with what they're going to have today, and hopefully what they have. When you look at it offensively, defensively, and a lot of these young players are going to be able to come in and step in on the special teams and make great contributions there as well, because we know how important special teams is to Coach Brown and his staff. And these young guys, I see big, bad, fast, strong, intense leaders, all types of players that you want, and they really looks to me like they have a great chemistry coming in. According to Brian Bennett, that we're going to talk to shortly, Tony. I see a great chemistry with great athleticism and great leadership. This is another step in the climb, man. This really is. When you go ahead and we break these down and everybody gets to see this, I think they're going to be very impressed at what this coaching staff has done despite the 2020 obstacles.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think you hit on a good key there, and that word is culture. And Neil has talked about that, and we're going to talk with Neil later on as far as trying to create and continue to create the culture that he wants to as they move forward. Right now, let's bring in WVU's Director of Player Personnel, Brian Bennett. He has the most intimate knowledge of anyone when it comes to putting this class together. Brian, good morning to you, and thanks so much for being with us. Brian joins us from over at the Pushkar Center.
Good morning. Glad to be here, man.
It's our pleasure. So let's jump in, my friend. This obviously was a recruiting class that was the most challenging that you'll ever face because of the pandemic. First off, before we talk specifics about players, how did you guys navigate through these uncharted territories of recruiting?
We were able to adjust. That's the biggest thing for us. It was every day was a new day and everything was a new obstacle. So navigating the waters was mostly about being able to adjust and being malleable, because if we were rigid and we tried to do things the way we've always done them, we weren't going to survive. So navigating the waters was really about figuring out what day to day, what was changing, and finding a way to adapt to it.
When you take a look at this class, I know that you guys had penciled it in as your first class that you would recruit the old-fashioned way from start to finish here. What did that allow you to do that perhaps last year's class did not avail you to do?
Well, you could see it in the results. We were able to build relationships with these guys in a way that it was just a shortened cycle in the last one. You know, these guys, I've got a group text with every single one of these commits and now signees that we talk almost every other day. We've built a really, really close relationship, and it's made everything easier. This group as a class is really close. We're close with them as a staff. It's allowed us to meet their parents, get to know people, even without being able to see them on campus. There's only a few of them we haven't met on campus, but even without being able to have them here recently and with all the obstacles, we've still gotten to know them really, really well.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Brian, there are a couple that aren't on campus, right, or haven't been on campus. Now, obviously, recruiting is intensely competitive. You guys have somehow managed throughout the process to not just maintain the relationship that you've had, but in some instances even flip kids virtually. I mean, you're talking about Zoom calls, over the phone, through text messages. How do you flip kids under these circumstances? But you've done it.
With persistence. WVU has a lot to offer, man. This is an unbelievable place. It's a place with a great culture. Coach Brown has things going the way we want them to go. So it's easy. The selling points are easy. It's just how often you've got to do it. When you can't get them on campus and you can't get them here in person, it's got to be constant contact. They've got to be hearing from position coaches, area coaches, recruiting people, head coach, and they've got to be hearing from us often. The virtual stuff has become huge. I've been on more Zoom and more FaceTime in the past year than I ever have in my entire life. So that's really been the only way you can do it, is by just constant contact and persistence.
Along that line, Brian, I think that our viewers would find it interesting. Specifically, how did you utilize those Zoom calls, and how did you utilize FaceTime? You literally would just dial them up and make that contact?
Tony, I think we're experiencing some technical difficulties here in the circumstances, but here's the beauty of it. One of the things in the process is my first step in preparing for this whole product here is Brian puts together these capsules on players, okay? And it's so overwhelmingly apparent how well he knows each kid by the capsules that he prepares for us, right? Now, as somebody who superintends the whole process, the director of personnel, this doesn't happen without a guy like Brian running point. And Tony, if you want to take from here, but Brian, what I was talking to Tony about was these capsules that you prepare for us make it abundantly clear to me, nobody knows these kids better than you do. And that's my first step in this proper preparation process, is taking your notes, because you know these kids so well, and going from there with it.
I better know them best. I'm the one who sees their names every day. I'm the one who types them. I'm the one who sees everything about them. I'm the early step of the process. Myself, Scott Gasper, and Trey Nyer, we're the early steps in all of this. So we better know them the best. Those little write-ups I do for you, that's actually kind of fun for me. It takes me about 2 to 3 days, but I do it all from memory, and then I go back and check everything I need to on our databases, but I do it all from memory just to see. It's kind of fun to revisit the process on each kid, because it's almost like I'm getting to redo the story.
Brian, I'm sorry, as a staff, let's put an overview on this class. When you began this, what were the calling points for you as a staff as to what you wanted to fill this class with? What was the overwhelming theme of this class?
There are a few of them. Culture is one of the biggest ones, man. We had to get guys who fit our culture and who fit what we're trying to do. And Coach Brown's program, you've got to love football, you got to love to work, and it's got to matter to you. So all these kids are guys that it matters to. All these kids are guys that love it. The other thing we wanted length and athleticism, man. We've added a bunch of length, we've added a bunch of athleticism. We wanted guys that can help you. You know, Dale mentioned it a few minutes ago. Length, athleticism, they help you on special teams. They help you early on. These are all guys with high potential, high level of commitment to the game and love for the game, that are guys that are going to really, really progress as student athletes. None of them are tapped out. That's the really cool thing. They're all developmental guys. Yeah. They're going to get better and better as they get here.
Well, let's bring in, you mentioned Dale Wolfley. Wolf, go right ahead. Fire away with Brian.
Hey, Brian, how has the NCAA rules and regulations changed with all these Zoom contacts and calling? Because obviously before there was always a limited amount of contact, and I'm assuming, so we know what that means, but that they've had to lift into some of those rules.
Yeah, how do we have a couple hours? I can go through all the rule changes. No, it's been interesting. It's changed a lot with the Zoom calls. Once they went to a dead period with 2021 guys, they went to unlimited calls. So our coaches, our 10 on-field coaches, can make unlimited calls to 2021 guys. That's been helpful because we can get them on Zoom meetings all the time, because a Zoom to the NCAA is the same thing as a call. It's no different. So calls, FaceTime, Zooms, they're all thought of in the same regard. So they win them unlimited, so that's made it a lot easier.
Now, when you talk about, Brian, West Virginia has a lot to offer. We obviously agree. What is the pitch from Neil Brown and the staff? Because one of the things I appreciated about Neil when he landed here right out of the gates, he talked about one of the winningest programs in the history of college football. He said if you draw a concentric circle a handful of hours around Morgantown, there's a wealth of talent to draw from. We obviously have a product that's different in this region of the country than a lot of the schools that we're competing or recruiting against in the Big Ten and the ACC. The Big 12 is a different brand. What's your guys' pitch?
It's different for every kid, but when you first started, you mentioned it, we're the 15th winningest program in college football history. I mean, there's what, 130, I think it's 135 or something like that teams in college football. We're the 15th winningest in college football history. A lot of people don't realize that. And then the other thing is when you see the Flying WV, everyone knows what it is. It's an extremely recognizable brand. Everybody in the country knows what that's referring to. Football fans, basketball fans, baseball fans, everybody knows what it means. And kids don't realize how important we are to this region. Everybody in this region is a fan of West Virginia. Everybody in this region, you think back to guys like Tavon Austin, some of those guys. Every kid we recruit mentions people like that. They mention the Gary Jennings, David Sills, Will Greer. They mention all those guys constantly, and it's because we're such a recognizable brand. We're so seen. So early on in recruiting, you try to give guys that, the passion of our fans, the passion of people in the area about us, and how recognizable the brand is for them. The Flying WV holds some weight, man.
Brian, let me jump in here and specifically ask you about one young man who is already signed today. And if I'm not mistaken, when I flipped my computer on a little bit after 7, it was already first up. And I'm talking about in-state product, Wyatt Milam, 6'7", 280 pounds, from Spring Valley High School. And this is a young man that had the opportunity to play at any college he wanted to in the country. He becomes really the foundation point of this class from an in-state perspective. Would you walk us through what West Virginia University has just landed here?
Yeah, man, you can't see it, but because of my mask, I'm smiling from ear to ear because this is one of the most special players I've ever recruited in my career. Wyatt is an elite frame, elite athleticism. I mean, this kid's special, man. He's an early on in his career for you tackle. Can play either side, left or right. Extremely athletic. His foot movement and his foot skills are from somebody much, much smaller than him. And the thing I love about Wyatt, and you'll see it on some of these clips, he is nasty. I mean, this kid knows he's dominant. He knows he's better than who he's playing against, and he wants to prove it. Finishes every play, finishes through people, finishes through the whistle. I couldn't be more excited about Wyatt. Absolutely could not. He's one of the best players I've ever recruited in my career.
Wow. Yeah, Brian, he's as advertised, Tony. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You see a lot of the dominance here on tape. He's as advertised. He's a mauler, just like Brian talked about. When you look at what they built down at Spring Valley, I talked to Coach Brad Dingus last night, and Brian, earlier you talked about the untapped potential of the kids in this class. Now, it might sound strange to say a kid that's 6'7", 280, 290, depending on who you ask, okay, hasn't really hit his ceiling yet. But from a developmental standpoint, his high school coach, Brad Dingus, will tell you, look, he took a big leap in the weight room even over the course of the past year. So who knows what he projects as? I mean, this could be a 315, 320-pound Big 12 tackle that we're looking at, right, Brian?
It will be. Wyatt's not even close to his best football. Wyatt's best football is the next few years ahead of him. Once he gets into our program, we're feeding him, and he's lifting the way we do. And that kid's got a chance to be really, really special. I always say it, but like his best football is definitely in front of him.
Brian, I would be remiss if I didn't allow Dale Wolfley, a former Mountaineer offensive lineman, to jump in here as well. Wolf, I would imagine that when you watch the highlights of Wyatt Milam, you get very excited.
Yeah, I was smiling. I'm smiling right now with Brian, man. It's like this, Tony. When you look at this, and they got some guy like a 4-star. If he's not a 5-star recruit, I don't think I know one. I really don't, because this guy has the most potential that I have seen for pure potential of where he's at where his nastiness is. He's got that thick stuff coming out his neck. And it's not common for a big 6'7", 280-pounder that wants to finish every single block, that wants to take every single opponent and drive them into submission. And that's what he does. Now, when you add the natural athletic talent that he has, at 6'7", he has a bend to him. He can bend. He gets low. If you look at that film, which you just saw, you're seeing him with a flat back, come off the ball, move his feet, continue to move his feet after initial contact, using his arms with technique, using separation. And this guy also plays on the defensive side. Now, I believe he has something like 198 pancake blocks. That's knocking a guy on his back, on the ground, destroying him, whatever you have to do. If you look at the video, you'll see him throwing guys on their backs when he's doing pass protection. I mean, it's really, truly amazing to see what I saw. Now, let's go ahead and take a look here. When you put that with Zach Frazier's film of last year together, I'm seeing two West Virginia kids that really I have not seen in a long time, if not ever, at WVU. Together, these are two guys, and I believe, Brian, if you can answer this, is that they are really tight and close friends and was a big part of the recruiting process.
It for sure was. It really, really cool moment. One of the cooler moments in recruiting for me. And I guess I've been in football for 12 years now. And one of the cooler moments when Wyatt brought his family and they were coming here for basically the visit he was going to commit on, Zach and his parents were here. And Zach and his parents got to be here and see it because it was a big deal. You know, Zach was one of our early guys, and he was the guy from the state that trusted in us the earliest. You know, he jumped in the boat, and he's been a great player since. Wyatt was the guy for this class, and Wyatt, and with him being here and Wyatt getting to share that moment with him, that was really cool. They're going to be close from the day he gets here. And then the other guy, Grayson Malashevich, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. Grayson and Wyatt are very, very close.
Outstanding. Brian, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it. I know you've got a busy day. I just saw the name of Aubrey Burks pop onto our list. He has now signed. We'll talk about him. He's out of Auburndale High School in Florida. Brian, thank you again, and we'll be staying in touch as the day rolls on. Thanks a bunch.
Of course. Thank you all.
All right, WVU's Director of Player Personnel, Brian Bennett. Stay with us. We've got more coming up. We've got new names which have been added to the list. Our special presentation of Take Me Home 21 is being brought to us in part by WVU Medicine. We'll be back.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the first round was for our fans and fans enhancement. So this next step is really important for our student athletes. It's important for them to be able to have the place that they call home each and every day in their practice and competition sites to make sure those facilities are top quality. The second part of that is in the recruiting aspect. It's to get the high-level student athlete interested in West Virginia University athletics. They're not professional athletes, so in turn, what we try to help the student athletes have the best facilities to compete and train in. I think to remain a viable Power 5 institution, it goes back to our facilities being able to recruit quality student athletes, being able to retain quality head coaching staff members. These are just part of the ingredients, for our department to continue to be a Power 5 institution and move in the right direction in the future.
At Encova Insurance, we're committed to leaving a lasting impression in all communities we serve. We support local causes that mirror the values and interests of our associates, agents, and policyholders. We partner with organizations that are dedicated to improving lives. We are committed to building something greater than ourselves. Encircling our communities with strength and support, we are Encova Insurance.
Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus brings you more than 400 exclusive live events, select conference championship events, coaches' press conferences, and original content. Sign up for Big 12 Now on ESPNplus.com/Big 12 Now.
WVU Medicine bringing us Take Me Home 21, and since the last time we got together, that list continues to grow. The class now up to 10. Again, not a whole lot more spots open there, Mr. Jed. We're going to have a look at about 16 kids today, and right now you can see the most recent additions, including Aubrey Burks, defensive back, and Davis Mallinger, who also is out of the state of Florida. So that right now is the list of 10 on a class that should get to 16. We'll break down all of these players coming up in just a little bit. First off, let's talk about a young man that if Wyatt Milam was the foundation marker for the offensive line, go to the wide receiver spot, and Caden Prather is a guy that also has people over on the football side with a huge smile on their face.
It's a huge get, Tony. When you look at Caden Prather, I had a chance to talk to his high school coach, Mike Newbiser. He's a kid with long arms. He's incredibly explosive, but even with that frame, his speed is in fact what separates him. Coach Newbiser said there were actually situations, Tony, in nickel or dime packages, they put him as a defensive end pass rusher because the offensive tackles simply couldn't get a finger on him. Incredibly soft hands. You'll see him demonstrate body awareness. A lot of times he faced soft coverage. They gave him a heck of a cushion. Didn't matter. He still blew by him. He has the ability to plant a toe and go. He runs with strength. You're not going to arm tackle this kid. Demonstrates amazing vision. And the thing about it is, from a ball skill standpoint, this is the physicality that he combines with that. There's really no such thing as a 50-50 football. You'll see him cross the middle here. Again, he's a fearless kid, very decisive. Look him plant. He's going to go. He's going to make the move. He's going to hit the rail. But a tough kid. He'll cross the middle. Coach Newbiser said there was a game early last year where a safety tried to lay him out. It was a huge collision, took him to the ground. He popped right back up. The safety did not. But there's no such thing as a 50-50 football. There's an 80-20 football when it's in the air with Caden Prather. He's the full package. There's just absolutely no doubt about it. He played against elite competition in the state tournament last year, had 101 receiving yards against what's going to turn out to be a Power 5 defensive back. But they did anything and everything possible to get the football in his hands. You saw the jet sweep action right there. It's just a huge, huge get. A kid with his frame, his size, his physicality, his skill set. They don't grow on trees, Tony.
You take a look, folks. Those highlights were from a year ago. Because of COVID, his high school team did not play at all this season. He's out of Montgomery Village, Maryland. However, despite the fact that he did not play as a senior, there were the who's who of interested folks that wanted to sign him. Here's his list of offers, including Alabama, Auburn, Baylor, Georgia, LSU, Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Penn State, Texas, Texas A&M, and Wisconsin. A massive get for WVU.
Absolutely. And to you fans out there, here's the role you play, okay? He was on campus multiple times. A couple things he took part in when he was on campus. Remember the Texas game last year, the Stripe the Stadium? What a college football atmosphere that was. So we put on our best face, the fans did, for Caden Prather to see that. Beautiful atmosphere, beautiful crowd. He saw what Mountaineer Field was all about. He was also here when the West Virginia basketball team had to win over Baylor. So the Coliseum was rocking. All these things tie together. Fans always wonder, what role do you play? you do play a role because you're making an impact in terms of showing these kids what West Virginia is all about in the atmosphere that athletics here at West Virginia can provide.
Dale Wolfley, what does someone like Caden Prather do and mean to West Virginia's offense?
Well, I think he can actually be an immediate impact to some degree, even in that wide receiver core, because there's going to be a few guys that move out. But what I really think when I watch him, I almost think of an old Randy Moss. I love Randy Moss. He's just really exceptional. He's 6'4", 200 pounds, but he runs like he's 5'11", his body control. And generally, when we talk about the high butts, when we see for Texas Longhorns, this is it. Caden Prather is a high butt. And what he does and that athleticism that he brings, this is a big-time player that's going to probably do big-time things as a Mountaineers. So, again, when you put everything that Jedley said about him, it's so true and what he can do. But his speed being that tall and his body control where he can make cuts and avoid defenders is truly an elite athleticism with an elite body.
Yeah. You make some really good points there, Wolf, because it's very difficult to find 6'4" and 200 pounds that has, number one, as he said, he's got that physical strength that you could see. And so he gets inside that Mountaineer weight room with Mike Joseph and the rest of the guys, and that 200 becomes 210, 215, and it just continues to grow and get strong. And if you've got the inside to begin with, then that's a real special package. Let's jump into another young man who has just signed as well, Andrew Wilson Lamp. He is a defensive back. When we had Brian on earlier, he said one of the emphasis of this class is to get length. Well, they've got a defensive back here that comes in at 6'3". You don't find those often.
This is what you need to contend with those tall receivers we were just talking about, right, Tony? But you saw his skill set as a receiver in high school. You saw his athleticism as a receiver. As a defensive back, incredibly great timing as a hitter, an ability to dislodge the football, makes things happen to that end. He's a tremendous red zone defender. What I didn't know, when you watch his tape, you'll see him make a play. What's going to happen is the safety slips on a play action in the red zone. He comes off his man and deflects the pass, has a PBU on the slots man. What I didn't know, that was his first ever game playing defensive back in varsity football. When I talked last night to Coach Moore, he was walking me through that. He played a lot of outside leverage. What they'll do is they play part of that quarters coverage, that palms coverage, and taking away the post. But schematically, I think he's a nice fit. But just his ability, he first came in as a varsity cornerback to make that play, but once again, we go back to what Brian Bennett said earlier. There's so much room to develop because he really hasn't mastered the nuances of that side of the football. He was an offensive player that not all that long ago moved to the defensive side. So when you talk about how close is he to hitting his ceiling, and you talk about Mike Joseph, get him in here. Mike Josephize him, okay? And imagine what he might be able to do, because you're going to add some pounds and add some muscle to him as well. He's going to be a physical presence. What I project him as, Wolf, is potentially an elite Big 12 corner with that type of frame and that type of skill set.
Wolf, what about it when you see 6'3" on a D-back?
Yeah, you know what Mike Joseph can't give him is his height at 6'3". And that's no rip on Mike, of course. But again, if you have this natural ability, when you go look back at it, let's look at the three guys that West Virginia just signed. You have Wyatt Milam at 6'7". You got Caden Prather, wide receiver at 6'4", and now you have a corner at 6'3". What you can do as a corner that can cover man. Did you see his hips? They just flip. It's a natural flip to him. That's why he's such a natural as a defensive cornerback, because he has that athletic skill that everybody looks for. But again, we're adding this height to it, 6'7", 6'4", 6'3", to these positions that it's not a normal thing that West Virginia has had in the past. I'm not saying we haven't had it, but this is a consistent basis. And when you're looking at this entire class, you have to look at what Brian Bennett just said. This is a tall, athletic class that likes physicality. And all three of these players right here is a prime example to kick off what Neil Brown and this whole trusting the climb, this whole next step is in this recruiting class. It's really pretty exciting.
I'll throw a name at you guys, and you see if we're in the same world here. Rasul Douglas. he had that type of size. I mean, someone like that.
Yeah, that type of frame, Tony, is something to draw from, because if you remember Rasul's game, there was a physical element to it as well. Now, one of the things Wolf was touching on was the athletic side of this, okay? You talk about the fluidity in his hips. Well, he's a basketball player, and one of the things that impressed Coach Brown, he had a chance to see him on the floor last year. His athleticism leaps off at you, and that does project, especially on that defensive back end. But one of the other things you heard Brian Bennett talk about is the character of this class. And when you talk to Coach Moore, his high school coach, one of the things that he addressed was, he said, look, he's a team captain because he checks every box that you would expect from a team captain. And what I mean by that is he's a leader on the field, he's a leader off the field, he's a leader in the weight room, he's a leader in the classroom, he's a leader in the community. He's a charismatic kid. He has a larger-than-life personality. He's a team leader. He's the type of kid that you want to populate your locker room with when you're pursuing a Big 12 championship.
3-star prospect according to the recruiting services, and I'll throw a few names at you that he also had opportunities to attend. Wisconsin, Pitt, Iowa State, obviously out of the Big 12, Michigan State, Penn State, Kentucky, Georgia Tech. And I think you start to see, guys, when you take a look at the offer list of the players and West Virginia is putting together here in this class, to me, my perception is it's elevated from past years as far as who's who when it comes to these offers.
It certainly has, Tony, and that speaks to a lot of the value that a kid might present, okay? But when you think back to West Virginia football, when it was at its best, okay, at any point in recent history, whether it was Coach Nealon, whether it was Coach Rod, the big years that Dana had, what you're going to look at is Ohio played a prominent role. Okay, kids like Andrew Wilson-Lamp coming out of places like Massillon played a prominent role. I mean, we all know the names, okay, throughout the course of history. That proximity to West Virginia, there's such an abundance of talent in the state of Ohio to draw from that we'd be crazy not to. We are at our best when that's one of the areas that we're targeting to draw some talent into West Virginia, which isn't that far of a drive for those kids.
Oh, absolutely. And through the years, obviously, the number of players that have come from the state of Ohio that have been extremely productive has been off the chart. All right, when we come back, we'll head back over to the Pushkar Center. We'll be joined by WVU assistant coach Jeff Coons. That and more coming up as Take Me Home 21 continues, presented by WVU Medicine.
Today tastes like staying in, like our go-to place. Tastes like anticipating, and a little bit like waiting. Food's here. Today tastes like a piece of the action, and it never tasted this good.
Holiday gifts come in all sizes and shapes, carefully crafted for friends and family to take. Some wrapped by mom quite beautifully, some wrapped by dad a bit simply. Some don big bows or festive ribbon, some sit in the snow, waiting to be given. But no matter how the gift arrives, everyone will enjoy the prize inside. Scratch-offs fill the holidays with fun, but hurry before the tickets are done.
You're up early.
Well, U.S. Cellular is giving away the latest phones for free with no hidden requirements, so I did not want to miss it.
Actually, you can get the latest phones free all season long.
What? All season long, huh?
Yep, and no hidden requirements.
You in the market for any camping gear? Only been used once.
At U.S. Cellular, get the latest phones free with the plan of your choice and no required phone trade-ins all season long. U.S. Cellular. Upgrade to Fair.
The air feels different on fall Saturdays in West Virginia. Familiar roads lead us on early morning drives to a place where we feel alive. And traditions bring together a fierce fan base, united by the same passion. West Virginia football. As West Virginia's bank, we've been there, and we'll continue to be there. United Bank, proud to be united with the Mountaineers.
When it comes to dementia, hope starts with early diagnosis. Hope starts here. The WVU Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute Memory Health Clinic. A team of experts in diagnosing and treating dementia and groundbreaking research seeking new ways to preserve and restore brain health. Acting early, breaking barriers, bringing hope. Don't wait. Call 855-WVU-CARE.
Thanks so much for being with us, everyone. We're with you up until noon today. Still to come, we'll be chatting with WVU head coach Neil Brown. Also, Director of Athletics Shane Lyons will be with us. We'll also be chatting with WVU assistant coaches, and our first of the assistants to join us right now, Special Teams Coordinator and inside linebacker coach Jeff Coons, joins us from over at the Pushkar Center. Jeff, good morning to you. Thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Good morning. Glad to have you guys with us, and proud to be here.
This, obviously, we talked with Brian Bennett earlier. This is the first class that you've been involved with, but the class that you'll never forget for the rest of your life because of the pandemic. How did you wade through all of this newness?
I'll tell you what, it's like anything else this year. You kind of learn as you go. It's pretty much how do you coach football, how do you run position meetings, how do you recruit. It's been nonstop adjustments, but really proud of the guys that we signed and the guys that are coming into the program because they didn't flinch. They went with the flow, and that's a true testament to the character of the guys coming in and what we expect of them once they get here.
Jeff, if you could take us into your mindset in regard to this class, what did you go into as far as this is what I want to accomplish, this is what I have in front of me, and then how were you able to make it happen for you?
Yeah, so I got hired the last week of January, so I was able to get into my areas for about 7-8 days before the February signing day last year. And then so you could kind of get out and see some basketball games, get into some schools, see some guys work out, do those things. So regionally and to get into my area in Ohio, which is a huge point of emphasis for us here, being so close was really important. So from there, being able to, see those guys and a lot of the guys in our class were able to get to campus either in the last year for camps or for junior days before everything kind of shut down in March. So there was a familiarity with us. But as you got to know these kids, just, coming into this class, you wanted to get a blue-collar guy. You wanted to get a guy that kind of saw the vision for our climb and what Coach Brown instituted here his first day. And I think you can check all the way down the commit list into the signing class that these guys understand that, they appreciate that, and they kind of embody everything that we're looking for. So finding the right kid, finding where that right kid was, and kind of drawing that circle around that radius around here and then growing it from there was a huge part of this class. So, out of the 10 assistants, being able to just do your 1/10, as we talk about on the field, doing your 1/11th, but and then all the things that go into it with our recruiting staff and all the people in the building that grind this stuff out day to day.
Jeff, one of the things, of course, you do a great job with your segment defensively as a position coach, but also you have the title of Special Teams Coordinator. So I would imagine you're pretty excited about some of the kids that you're bringing in this class, in this group, because a lot of them will first cut their teeth on those transition units, right? And more specifically, one of the kids that you played a prominent role in bringing in, Andrew Wilson-Lamb, he's one of those kids with a longer frame, the skill set. He hasn't nearly hit his potential yet, but he is one of those types of kids, and there are many, that will first be populating those special teams units, right?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. And Andrew's a guy that I've had those talks with, and he's brought it up. and that's exciting, whether it's in the return game, whether it's, what the natural positions that translate from playing the corner position with your jammers on punt return, kickoff coverage. Andrew's a guy that's a very physical player, even though he definitely has more developing to do with his frame and his size into his length that he already has, but plays really physical, comes from a very physical program. And so that's something that we have really embraced in this process of recruiting and getting to know him. And I can't wait to see him on there. But, just from a big picture standpoint on special teams, these guys understand that that's part of the game. That's a huge part of the game. And it's one that allowed us to be successful at times this year and give us an edge. And that's what we want to do every single day. So these guys coming in and earning their stripes, so to speak, on teams while they're also working on offense and defense, huge important factor. And we've had a lot of meetings where, hey, yeah, this guy checks the boxes at his position, but we can think of 3 different positions on teams where he's going to be able to come in and contribute immediately as well.
WVU assistant Jeff Coons joins us. Also joining us on our broadcast, Dale Wolfley. Wolf, fire away.
Hey, Jeff, when you look at this defensive class that you're bringing in, and I'm not sure not everybody is signed in yet, but what is the overall theme that you're seeing with these players and like the type of chemistry that you have going here and what you're looking forward to building as you guys keep developing this defense and basically the nastiness that is displayed this year?
Well, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. The last statement you made there is blue collar physicality, toughness. And every single one of these guys, when you watch their film, and we do a really good job in-house with our recruiting staff of not just going off of highlights, but researching game film, researching, making point of attack tapes where it's the good and the bad. And every one of these guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and I think it carries over to both sides of the ball, they play extremely hard. And they have great competitive character. And they're guys that when you put them out there on 4th and 1 in front of 65,000 of their closest friends, they're going to give it all they got, and you know that. And that's what's exciting because they all bring that brand of mentality to the game.
Jeff, earlier we spoke about Wyatt Milam signing, and now we'd like to bring up another offensive lineman that you were centrally involved in, another very large dude, 6'6", 275-pounder out of Brunswick, Ohio, Tomas Rimac. And again, going to the point of size and length and athleticism, it looks as though you've got yourself a special guy.
I couldn't be more excited about Tomas, and what an unbelievable young man he is. Obviously, the thing about Tomas that stands out, you go back to this year and you see how he developed as an offensive lineman. Brunswick, they do a great job developing, and what he's done there the last couple months is really a true testament to his hard work in the offseason, how he's developed in his pass protection. But at the end of the day, he has a great work ethic. He's a young man that 2 days ago was on a 19-mile hike, finishing up one of his last merit badges as an Eagle Scout. Just a guy right now that loves to work, loves to be outside. And when you can get a big man that wants to work hard, you got something special. And the cool thing about him is you go back, even going back to his junior year, there's plenty of clips of him playing on the defensive side of the ball, chasing down guys and playing with extreme high effort, high energy. So really, really great addition. And just like Coach Brown said this morning, probably one of the sleepers of the class that we think could have a great career here in Morgantown.
The beauty of watching his tape, Coach, is you have all these graphic circles and the look at this, watch out. You didn't need that with his tape. When you threw that tape in, it was very apparent why you were watching that tape, right? But you talked about the Eagle Scout badge, all right? Well, the stories when you talk to Coach Penzoni, you've made quite an impact over there at Brunswick, first of all. Congratulations to you. But when you talk to Coach Penzoni, I'll tell you what's legendary. What's legendary is Tomas Rimac's Croatian mother and the role that she plays in that household. She sat down with Coach Penzoni after his sophomore year going into his junior year and said, listen here, my son is a Boy Scout, and if he's not an Eagle Scout, by the end of his junior year, he's done playing football. So he got coached right on the assignment. So talk about not just the role that Tomas Rimac's mother played, great set of parents, dad middle management, but how central that is, the family role in recruiting.
Yeah, and he's a classic example of getting to know the family. They came over here for a camp last summer, so I wasn't here yet to be able to get to know them in person. But as we got into the Zoom meetings and the FaceTimes and the virtual recruiting process of the spring, after we offered, and getting to know his mom and his dad, and just what a close-knit family, older brothers, and you can just tell the blue collar, and I mean, when I say that, the work mentality, the work ethic that has been instilled in him from day one. And that's what's exciting about it. And the whole family was extremely excited to have the opportunity here at West Virginia. And when that's the case on both sides, you really have something special brewing. But great people, great family, and exactly, it's kind of a recruiting coach's dream, to be honest with you, to have everybody so centrally involved in the process.
Jeff, let's jump in now with Dale Wolfley. He always loves to take a look at these linemen. Wolf, we saw Wyatt Milam earlier. What are your thoughts on Tomas Rimac?
Well, I just want to talk about his athleticism and what we're bringing in as a class here. First with Wyatt, and then with Tomas. And love a good Croatian story, Jedley, by the way. That's great. Love that. But what I see from him is he's got this natural bend. Again, Wyatt's 6'7", Tomas is 6'6". It looks to me like Tomas could play offensive guard and tackle. It doesn't matter. He could fit in somewhere in this offensive line. And I really love the fact that he likes to hit, and he has a nastiness as well, but he drives his feet in overdrive after initial contact. And he seems like a natural athlete when you're getting these long-limbed guys. And for an offensive line, it makes a difference. We've seen it in the Big 12 against other teams where they have these huge offensive linemen, and I'm talking in height, stature, and I think it's just going to be a benefit for West Virginia.
Yeah, you can't coach length. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to. Coach Moore has probably really tried over the years to coach length and elongate guys in different ways, but you can't. You know, they have what they have. But you're exactly right. He bends extremely well. You know, when you go back in the evaluation process, he's a guy that a lot of big guys throw, shot put, discus. You know, very important to him. He's had success doing that, and you've got to be able to bend, and you've got to be able to, you know, to have leverage and sink your hips and do those things, and you can totally see that translate into his film. So, I think you're spot on, and the versatility that he brings to play inside or play outside, that's not for me to decide, but he definitely has the ability to do either.
Hey, Jeff, let's jump from the state of Ohio down to Florida, and let's talk a little bit about Ja'Cory Hammett. List him as a bandit, 6'2", 205 pounds. We've seen the Northwestern high school name through the years in recruiting out of the state of Florida. What can you tell us about this young man?
Really excited about Ja'Cory. He is a high energy, high tempo kid. Kind of what we talked about at the beginning of this. You talk about guys coming into the program in two ways. One, great competitive character, great effort to the football, constantly shows up on film. But again, like on that very first clip you're seeing right here, he's running down on kickoff. I was on the phone with him yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the day before signing day, and we're talking about what position he's going to play on kickoff team to be able to go down and impose his will. So, I mean, that's the kind of guy you want. That's the kind of guy that we're attacking. And to have a guy coming from that program in South Florida out of Dade County and to come up here and have a chance to be another guy to come up to West Virginia from Florida and have a great career, we're extremely excited about Ja'Cory and what he brings.
Again, not to belabor this point, but the names of the players and schools that you guys have been associated with this year, this is a young man that had offers from the University of Miami, Arkansas, Florida State, Mississippi State, Nebraska, Pitt, South Carolina, Tennessee, among others. You were able to get a kid out of there. That's a huge, huge get.
Yeah, Coach Trickett did a phenomenal job recruiting this young man, and his relationships in South Florida, and then just to have, you know, everybody to piggyback off of what Coach did to build the relationship with him, and then obviously the relationship that I've been able to grow with Ja'Cory over the last several months. But again, I can't say enough about how Coach Trickett attacked down there, and again, it's about finding the right fit. And we tell guys all the time, you know, Morgantown is a special place. WVU is a special program, and we all have conviction in what this town, what this university and what this state can do for young men. And it doesn't matter where you're from all over the country, you can come here and be successful. And it's about finding the right fit. And yeah, exactly right. We have guys in this class that have offers from all over the country. And at the end of the day, we're excited about who we got coming in here, and how they talk to us, and the excitement you hear in their voice is what makes it really special.
Northwestern High School is a football factory,
yes,
right? And not just names like Teddy Bridgewater or Amari Cooper, but Mountaineer fans will know the name Robert Pickett. Now, Coach, you talked about Jacory on special teams. He's not just a special teams contributor. He's a violent special teams contributor. Right? That's one of the things that jumps off the tape. But what I wanted you to ask about, he seems to have a very high football IQ, this innate ability to diagnose route concepts, fly to the football accordingly. But that speed off the edge is something else that we're starting to see more and more of. It's obviously an attractive feature, especially to somebody who coaches the position that you coach, and he has the timing of a great pass rusher. How does all that come together in the package that is Jacory Hammett?
Yeah, well, the versatility he brings to the table can't be overstated. I mean, we talk about it, there's natural pass rush ability, but even this year, early in the season, you could see how he has progressed in coverage, how he progressed in space, and he can bend and change direction with the best of them, and he's going to bring a versatility. We have him, in the bandit position, but again, it's plug and play at multiple positions, and when you have a guy that can run and plays physical, you can do a lot of different things with him. So really excited about him and continuing his development, and as hungry as a guy as you'll ever meet.
Dale Wolfley, back to you and your thoughts on Jacory Hammett.
Well, what I really love about Jacory, Coach, is you were talking to him about what position he was going to play on kickoff. Again, this is a hungry young man that wants to come in and make an impact right away with the Mountaineers. I'm not saying that he can't do that as a bandit on defense or wherever he may end up, but what I see from him is something that's really special. It's that South Florida speed, man, that explosion. And you saw him in that first clip. Man, he was a human missile, man. He likes contact. And once again, I'm looking at this total class, and he brings length and speed, athleticism, but he's also bringing a physical attitude to this team, what I've seen throughout the entire class.
There's no doubt. There's an edge to his game that anybody would want in their program, and that excited us probably as much as anything else, is the edge. And when you watch those clips, the thing you got to keep in mind, and y'all already mentioned it, Northwestern being a very powerful program, but in Dade County, you got to understand, they're playing Division I guys every single week. He's not doing that against small. I mean, that is the highest level in the state of Florida, going against the highest competition. And you'll see that throughout this class, is guys from programs that are playing the best in their respective states week in and week out. And that's what you want. That's how you continue to build a champion. And what Jacory is going to bring mentality-wise, as much as his skill set, is going to be huge.
Hey, Jeff, thanks so much for your time. Congratulations on the class that you guys have put together.
Hey, I really appreciate you guys having me on. Excited about everything moving forward.
All right, stay well. Still to come, Neil Brown, Shane Lyons on deck. Mountaineer assistant Travis Tricka will talk a little bit more about Hammett and his connection down in South Florida. Our list continues to grow. Will Goose Crowder has signed on the dotted line. We'll be back with more right after this.
Don't miss a minute of your Mountaineers. Take MSN with you. If you're on the go, catch MSN Radio on the WVU Game Day app. Live games, coaches shows, and coverage of press conferences. The Mountaineers are on the air, and the Mountaineers are on the WVU Game Day app. Download it today and be a Mountaineer wherever you may be, anywhere in the world, digitally with MSN, the Mountaineers Sports Network.
If you're hurt in a car wreck in West Virginia, how long does it take Farmer Klein and Campbell to come to you?
We can be there quickly.
We're always nearby with offices in Charleston, Morgantown, and Beckley. And we'll drive anywhere in West Virginia to help you with your case.
Injured, we're West Virginians.
We know how to get help to you.
We're courtroom strong
and client friendly. Call Farmer Klein and Campbell.
Farmer Klein and Campbell is the way to go. Call 225-5990.
Want to earn free rewards at GoMart? Then you need to get with the program, the GoMart Rewards Program. From free coffee to free snacks, you'll earn rewards with each purchase. And signing up is easy. You can sign up for the program at GoMart.com. or by going to the GoMart app and tapping on the rewards icon. Already have a GoMart rewards card? Be sure it's registered so you can start earning your rewards, because you're not going to want to miss out on all the great freebies. Go to GoMart.com or download the GoMart app to learn more today.
I think it's important to note that the first round was for our fans and fans enhancement. So this next step is really important for our student athletes. Pushkar Center's, there's several different phases. There's 5 different phases in the Pushkar Center. You know, we're currently finishing up, we call it phase 1, which is the training room as well as the training table area. Phase 2 then goes into the locker room and the visiting locker room area. And some of this is a domino effect. One thing has to be done before the other from a building standpoint. But what it ultimately will have is a larger locker room for our student athletes. It'll also have a lounge area off the locker room for our athletes. It would include more team rooms, updated team rooms, a new Hall of Fame, which would be taken from the back of the building to the front of the building, and then new offices for the coaching staff. I think to remain a viable Power 5 institution, it goes back to our facilities, being able to recruit quality student athletes, being able to retain quality head coaching staff members. You know, these are just part of the ingredients, you know, for our department to continue to be a Power 5 institution and move in the right direction in the future.
Take Me Home 21, West Virginia University's recruiting class on this first day of the signing period, and the names continue to grow. 11 on the board right now. The most recent, best nickname in the entire class, Will Goose Crowder, the quarterback out of Alabama. We'll get into him in just a little bit. We welcome you back. I'm Tony Caridi along with Jed Drenning. Dale Wolfley is also with us. Let's head over to the Pushkar Center once again, where we are joined by WVU assistant coach Travis Trickett. Travis, good morning to you. Thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Good morning. How are we?
We're good, buddy. We are real good. Good to see you. Your name was just mentioned. We'll talk a little bit about Ja'Cory Hammett in a bit, but specific to your position, tight end. Let's jump in here. We haven't spoken yet. 2 tight ends in this class, which may give us an indication of where you guys want to go offensively in the future. Let's first bring up Traylon Davis, 6'5", 240-pounder out of Jackson, Ohio. What did you just gain in your room?
Well, we definitely gained a Mountaineer mentality. This guy plays the game the way it's supposed to be played. His dad's a former offensive lineman. Actually, funny story, Coach Legg, who's on staff here, recruited his dad out of high school. And so there was a little bit of connection there. Has a ton of family from the state of West Virginia. And this guy, when you talk to him, you hear him speak, you know he's a Mountaineer all the way. Plays the game, will stick his face on you, has size and athleticism, can bend, can make plays on ball, very good ball skills. But the thing is, he will get after your rear end in the run game and the pass blocking game. I mean, he is a dominant. You can tell his dad was an offensive lineman. I mean, he absolutely is tenacious. And that's part of the deal, his mentality. And it was such a good fit for our room and where Coach Brown wants to go, having a blue-collar mentality. So we're tickled to death that he decided to join our family.
Yeah, Travis, when we look at the evolution of your room, what you inherited, it wasn't that long ago. We were losing Trayvon Wesco to the draft. We really were in dire need of some bodies in that room. We've addressed it in each of the last couple of years. But what you see in Traylon Davis, talk to his high school coach, Andy Hall at Jackson, who you obviously know. And the situation with this kid is a couple of years ago, they had a kid named Reagan Williams who went on to be a 4-year kid at Stanford. And he was a scrappy kid who just worked and fought for everything he had. And Coach Hall sat Traylon down and said, look, if you want to go to the next level, that's what it's going to take. And that's the mentality that it's going to take. So he adopted that approach. And Travis, that physicality just shows through. It's maybe the only tape I've ever watched that I'm like, a 92-yard touchdown catch on a seam route. I'm like, yeah, get on with that. I want to see more of this blocking, right? Because he is just pancaking guys. They flexed him out more this year, kind of a weak suspect offensive line. They had to utilize, go more of a spread concept, stretch him out so they couldn't really put him on the interior as an inline guy this year. But that approach that he's taken from a mental standpoint really shows in that physicality, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, that's the thing, that it jumped off the film about how he played the game. And we talk to our guys all the time. How you play matters. And with the way he plays, the mentality that he brings, and also just like he's all about ball and he's all about the right things. He's got a great family at home. They've raised him right. He's a yes sir, no sir kind of guy. And what you talk about with the room, you know, we're very thin body wise, but now we're building that tight end room with the mentality that we want. And I couldn't be more excited about how the room's developing. But he's going to bring that toughness, that nastiness that's inherited to that room, and that we're already kind of growing to and developing into. But without question, he does that. And like I said, you see me smiling and talk about it, I just get giddy about it. He's been a pleasure to recruit, and I can't wait for him to get here in January. That's the best part. He's an early enrollee, so he's going to be here soon.
Oh, it's outstanding. All right, from one guy who's smiling to another guy who's smiling. Dale Wolfley, what do you like on tape?
Well, I'll tell you what, Travis, it really seems to me, you know, when he put Michael Laughlin and you guys went and did an ISO with him out of the backfield, I was like, this team is really turning to the tight ends. And these two guys that you have here, really, really impressive. And when you look at Traylon Davis, it's, you know, you're seeing a 6'5". What I love is the fact that he can create mismatches on the second and third levels. That what we just saw basically out of Iowa State. And I think that going in that direction, and it's going to really give West Virginia a huge advantage because, like you said, you're stacking that room, but they're also big bodies.
Absolutely. Special teams is critical, you know, and having those guys to be active on punt team, kickoff return team, you know, punt block team, PAT field goal, all those aspects is huge. And, you know, Traylon's the typical West Virginia kid in the history of like being a developmental guy. You know, West Virginia's a developmental program. We take guys that build. And he was, rewind about 2 years ago, he's crowding 200 pounds. Last year, he's 220. This year, he's 240. Now, again, what we're going to do with Coach Joseph, he's going to get him in here and strip him down a little bit and then build him back to what Coach Joseph does to an elite level every year. But, like, he's a guy that he wasn't 240 as a freshman. So he might not have been on a ton of radars early on. He developed and he grew, and so but the thing is, he kept the same speed. He kept the same athleticism. So that's what's really intriguing. But without question, like he's going to allow us to be very flexible on offense. I want all those guys in that room to be able to do different things. They all got to do the same thing, but they all got, if they can all excel at something different, gives us a ton of flexibility with some of the things that we can do. And he's going to help us a ton, not only on offense but also on special teams.
Well, let's pick up on that now, Travis. And so Wolf mentioned Iowa State. They came at us with an assortment of tight ends. So if we're doing the math here, we got Mike O'Loughlin, we've got T.J. Banks, we've got Charles Finley. They're all in the room. You add Traylon Davis. We're going to talk about Victor Wickstrom in just a little bit. You're building yourself a multiple tight end room. Is it conceivable to see doubles, triples at times in the future?
Yeah, well, this year, to answer your question, yes. You know, again, Coach Brown, what Coach Brown does a great job is he takes the pieces that we have and he maximizes them. And this year, you saw a lot more. You know, tight end was on the field a lot more this year than what was the year before.
Sure.
We played a lot more 12 personnel this year than what we had in the previous year with 2 tight ends on the field. And going forward, you know, we're a little limited this year because of just bodies. We don't have many. We had T.J. Banks and Mike O'Loughlin, and Charles, who's going to be a great player for us, is developing and growing. He's up to about 217 right now, but you know, physically he's in that developmental process. So adding these guys to that room, and a year from now, when Charles adds some more weight, T.J. and Mike continue to grow and develop as what they do, it's going to allow us to be, you know, short yard situations. We can get in big personnel sets and take a shot deep where they got to load the box. We get one-on-one on the outside with our skill guys. Or we can be able to spread them out with big personnel and get big bodies on the slots. So it gives us a ton of flexibility going forward. That's one thing Coach Brown understands. Like, you know, there's a quote just last week, head coach made comments like, you can never have enough tight ends, and it's true. And so I'm not complaining. I'm going to have a room full of 5 guys this spring. It's going to be a fun spring. I literally can't wait till we get started again.
Yeah, I've never heard. I've heard this before. You can never have too many meatballs, but never enough tight ends. I've never heard that. All right, so let's jump into one more here, and this is the first of 2 international players they're going to be signing with WVU, have signed, Victor Wickstrom. So this is kind of like pull back the cover. You're not exactly sure what you're going to get, not in the sense of you don't know, but a lot of people won't know because obviously he comes from Sweden. 6'5", 251 pounds. He came to the United States. He went through camps. What do we have here?
I'm just glad he stayed in Sweden and did not come to the United States, because if he would have came and played high school ball here in the United States, it would have been a fight like no other, because he is 6'5". He weighed in at 250 recently. I told him that's plenty big. But when he was here at camp, he came in and he's the guy that wowed you at camp. He was at that point in time, he was 6'4.5". He's up to 6'5" now. He was 230 at that point in time, okay? He ran a 4.65. All right, now that's fast. That's moving for a big guy at that weight. And if you see the film here, I mean, he's physical. He's got great ball skills. He won just about every one-on-one matchup against DBs and safeties at camp. And this is a guy that, I mean, his ball skills, his size and speed, athleticism, like, it just don't come around. And he's got toughness. He can bend. He's stronger than all get out. He posts workout videos every other day on Twitter. And like right there, you see him getting in and out breaks. The size and speed, athleticism, like, there's a little bit of an unknown because he's from across the pond. But we've had him in camp. We worked with him. We had him for a full day where we could just drill him up and down. And he had toughness in that aspect. I tried to coach him hard that day, and he took it. And then his film matched up with it. So he is just a ball of clay that is just, I mean, those are freaky numbers. And with what Coach Joseph is going to do with him, like, I'm super excited. But he's going to be of his dimension not only in the pass game but in the run game. I mean, he's powerful in the run game, and he runs a 4.6 on the outside. So, I mean, it's really intriguing to get him here in January and to have the amount of time that we're going to have with him. I cannot wait.
Your eyes are glowing, Travis. There's no doubt about it, and mine would be too if I coached the tight ends at this juncture. But Mountaineer fans, I want to get you ready for a phrase that you're going to hear some in the coming years, and that's 13 personnel, okay? That's one back and three tights. And the beauty of it's this. First of all, when you look at a guy like Victor, the 6'5", 250 jumps out at you. But the speed, like Travis was talking about, is such a part of his game. They did creative things to try and get the football in his hands. Everything from jet sweeps to wildcatting him, right? Just to get the football in his hands. But let's talk about this body type, Travis, and what it does for the program at large. One of the issues, and we talk about this all the time, that old school air raid or run and shoot or spread teams might have, they don't have that body type in their program. So that has an effect across the board. Defensively, the only way to get good against stopping the run is facing a physical run game with tight ends in practice, in those settings. When you don't have it, you can't stop it. So not only does it galvanize you and you can weaponize these guys as assets on the offensive side, it helps you on the defensive side. But just talk about what having that many of those body types, which is what you're working towards, means for the program in general.
No question. I mean, if you want to win, you got to be the biggest and fastest team out there, you know. And for us, like Coach Brown set a precedent on that, you know, from day one. Like, we need guys that can, maybe not day one when we sign them, but by year 2, year 3, they need to be able to physically be able to go out there and beat the top competition in our league. They've got to be able to do that, because if not, then you're just working on scheme the entire time. Like, you've got to be able to go out there and get guys that can physically develop into be guys that project to be guys like our 4-star, 5-stars projections 2 years from now. And I think some programs in our league have done that. West Virginia's always done that. And one thing about like Victor, you know, he's a 4-inch vertical when he was here. That's pretty explosive for 240 pounds. And at 250 pounds now, and that's just going to go up under Coach Joseph. So it's critical to have that in that juncture. And like you said, practice against it, because at the end of the day, you know, iron sharpens iron. But I'm you know, with my school of thought, and it's the same as Coach Brown, he understands it as, you know, size and speed. You cannot put, like, I want things I can't coach. Like, I'll coach them how the technique on blocking. I'll coach them in route technique. We'll coach them on all those things. But if you can give me some stuff that I can't coach, then that's going to make us that much better. You know, and again, Charles Finley, great balance and body control, great ball skills. And he's got great length, great bend. So once he gets that weight on, it's going to be the same thing. So we just got to keep stacking those kind of guys that can physically go out there, hopefully, and then beat the opponent.
We have resuscitated Dale Wolfley. He fell off of his seat when Jed mentioned 13 personnel. He got all excited about the possibility of 3 tight ends at the same time. Wolf, what do you like here?
Well, I tell you what, you talk about a bull in a china shop. He just runs through guys. obviously the level of competition he's facing, they can't even compare to him because he can run through him, he can juke him, he can run around him, run away from him. He can do really so many different things there. And Travis, my question for you is, he hasn't even been taught the proper techniques of what he's for American football. I mean, this kid is doing this on his own. This young man, I'm going to say it, a young man, not a kid, but he's been doing this all on his own. And what an opportunity for you to come in and do and affect his life and changing the tight end and special teams.
Absolutely. And, when we saw he actually had junior film, but he was split out the entire time. He was running routes, catching balls. So that checked the box for us. Everyone sees the size and the strength and the workouts. They automatically think blocker. Well, no, he actually that's just a bonus. So what's best about him is that his internal drive, and which we don't know, there's an unknown just because he's thousands of miles away. There's not really a high school coach, and you can't go watch him practice. But his internal drive to be great, he works out constantly, and not only just works out, he does football work constantly. He's running routes constantly. He's doing those, and to be able to have that drive to do that every day, you've got to love the game, especially to play for Coach Brown and our program. If you don't love football, you're probably not going to last very long here because we ask our guys to do so many things at championship level. It's hard. Not everyone can do it. So we want to make sure whoever we bring in is able to do that and sustain it for 4 to 5 years. And so far, the body of work that he's done, we feel very confident that he's going to come in and be one of the hardest workers. I know Coach Joseph's probably licking his chops, seeing all the weight room numbers that he's got and all the power cleans and all that. But on top of that, he's going to be a great student. He's going to take care of business. He's been easy to deal with. The communication's been great, even though there's been such a big distance because, again, he's got great family. But no question, it's going – and actually, I don't think the cultural difference is going to be that big difference because he loves to hunt. He loves to fish. He's going to fit right in.
Travis, before we let you go here, let's bring a young man up that we talked about earlier with Coach Kuntz, and that's Ja'Cory Hammett. You were centrally involved in helping him come West Virginia's way because of your connections down in South Florida. Can you walk us through a little bit of your involvement there?
Sure. Ja'Cory is a guy that's the old school West Virginia, loves football. He's all ball. He comes from a winning program, no question. But the one thing about him is he plays the game again, like I mentioned earlier with Traylon. He plays the game the way it's meant to be played. He's got a nickname. I'll give you all this. I don't know if Coach mentioned it. His nickname's Triple H. Not after the wrestler Triple H, but it's hard-headed Hammett. Triple H, hard-headed Hammett. That's his high school coaches call him, and his teammates call him because he'll come down there and he will stroke you. I mean, he has reckless regard for anything. He just goes down there and he goes to hurt you, and he's violent. And that's what we've always built our program on here, being a violent football player between the white lines. And he does that. And he's got a high motor. He loves everything about ball. He's got a ton of upside. He's got a ton that he can be developed on. So recruiting him, like I said, got a lot of ties down there, know a lot of those coaches. And when we felt like there was a little bit of an opening, just start building that relationship, and it got pretty strong. And at the end of the day, he knew what he could do in our defense. He saw our defense. Coach Kuntz did a great job, our defense staff, presenting what we do. And a guy like him, we just want to get that South Florida to West Virginia connection going again, and he's going to help lead the charge along with Darryl Porter from a year ago.
Hey, Travis, since you joined us, we've got the commitment in from Hammond Russell, who you were involved with. That's a defensive line prospect, 6'4", 255 pounds, from Dublin, Ohio. What do you have there?
So Hammond Russell has been so steadfast in his recruitment. One of our first commitments in this class came in, a guy that's kind of like Traylon, late developer. He was actually a quarterback when he was a young buck. About his freshman year, he played quarterback. And now he's about 270-pound defensive lineman, so life comes at you fast, right? So he is athletic, great bend. You can see right there, can come off the edge, great bounce back. But the best thing about him is he's a great kid. Exactly what we want to build this class with. Has really been a ringleader, so to speak, with this recruiting class, talking to everybody, has led the charge, helped us with other guys. And Coach Brown made a present. He's like, I want to be in Ohio. I want to make sure we hit the Columbus, Cincinnati, all those areas. I want to hit hard. And, be able to get a kid from Columbus, Ohio, is big for us because, again, we treat those places as just like in-state. and he's been great. And I'm excited for what he's going to develop into. Coach Leslie, he identified him early. Coach Leslie did a great job developing a relationship with him. But he's exactly the kind of guy that Mountaineer fans are going to get to know because he's got a great big personality. They're going to love him, and he's easy to love because he's such a great human being.
You can't get enough burst off the edge, right? And I also see, Travis, some versatility in Hammond Russell that he could play potentially as a projection inside or out and bring that athleticism with him. But one of the things that you see also, maybe the building blocks to some technique here, what happens is a lot of these high school kids, they blow off the edge and they're just so dynamic and so fast. Offensive high school tackles can't handle that. Once you get to college, you find yourself engaged more, and that's when you have to be a technician. He uses his hands, so I think there are some building blocks to go along with that incredible skill set athletically, right?
Absolutely. And we're not the only ones to identify that. He had a lot going on. And, the one thing with him is if you want athletic defensive linemen, they're usually not 270, 80 pounds when they're freshmen. Most of the time, just like anything, they develop, they grow. And really what sold us, we went and watched him play basketball. His athleticism, his movement skills, like he could like bend and move, and like that's the thing. Like I said, his basketball film when he played was phenomenal. So that's the thing. When you saw him control his body, do those things, and control, and dribbling, he did a phenomenal job on that. So those kind of little telltales, if you could see those things for a guy that's 230 at that point in time, 240, he's going to project with our strength coach 270, 280, and be able to play on the edge, be able to play inside, gives you a ton of versatility. But again, those ball skills, those hands, the hand-eye coordination, is critical, because especially with all the movement you see us on every Saturday, like our defensive line does not stay still. I wish they did in practice. They don't. I'm glad they don't on Saturday because it's a pain in the butt to block. But he's going to fit exactly for what Coach Leslie's looking for, and really excited to watch his growth and development because our defense staff does a great job developing those guys. Some
really interesting information there in that he goes high school went from being a young quarterback and then basketball player, so he's got all of those intangibles. Dale Wolfley, what do you like about Hammond Russell?
I like it that he's in the backfield so much as a disruptor. And what Travis just said is I really appreciate this overall recruiting class as these kids, not only do they fit in chemistry-wise and the attitude and good kids and all the good things, the leaders that you need, but they also fit into the schemes. And I'm talking offensively and defensively, your schemes. You're recruited by scheme with talent. And to me, that's what's really, really important.
Absolutely. I don't think you're going to see us take many 330-pound nose guards that can't move. We'll take all the Darius Steeles and Dante Steeles and all the guys we have up front that we can get. That are athletic, that can move. And Coach Leslie has a great eye for what fits his scheme and Coach Adai's scheme. And he was a guy that we identified early, and really before his interest picked up, we got in the party with him early, and then everything started, adding on as far as other teams for services. And but the biggest thing that drew him here was the family atmosphere. So it goes back to like when you find that guy that fits the scheme, you find a guy that fits you athletically, you feel like you win a championship with, and then you find a guy that fits the culture, that's when it all aligns for you. That's when you start taking that step as a program and getting those kind of guys so that core, that glue of the team, that locker room is what you want it to be, and along with the talent level that it needs to be.
That's a great point, Trick. I think when a staff comes in and takes over, you just try to put your hands out there and just fill gaps as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. Not until you get settled in and really have a true understanding of your personnel do you get to this class right here and go like, okay, this is what we're running, this is what we don't have, this is what we need, and by all accounts, they've gone out there and got that. Travis, thanks so much for joining us, buddy. We appreciate your time.
Appreciate you guys.
Stay well. On deck, still to come, Neil Brown, Shane Lyons will drop by for a visit. Dante Wright, Mountaineer assistant coach, will join us. Take Me Home 21 continues, presented by WVU Medicine.
I think it's important to note that the first round was for our fans and fans enhancement. So this next step is really important for our student athletes. Pushkar Center's there's several different phases. There's 5 different phases in the Pushkar Center. You know, we're currently finishing up, we call it phase 1, which is the training room as well as the training table area. Phase 2 then goes into the locker room and the visiting locker room area. And some of this is a domino effect. One thing has to be done before the other from a building standpoint. But what it ultimately will have is a larger locker room for our student athletes. It'll also have a lounge area off the locker room for our athletes. It would include more team rooms, updated team rooms, a new Hall of Fame, which would be taken from the back of the building to the front of the building, and then new offices for the coaching staff. I think to remain a viable Power 5 institution, it goes back to our facilities, being able to recruit quality student athletes, being able to retain quality head coaching staff members. You know, these are just part of the ingredients, you know, for our department to continue to be a Power 5 institution and move in the right direction in the future.
The air feels different on fall Saturdays in West Virginia. Familiar roads lead us on early morning drives to a place where we feel alive. And traditions bring together a fierce fan base, united by the same passion: West Virginia football. As West Virginia's bank, we've been there, and we'll continue to be there. United Bank, proud to be united with the Mountaineers.
Want to earn free rewards at GoMart? Then you need to get with the program, the GoMart Rewards Program. From free coffee to free snacks, you'll earn rewards with each purchase. And signing up is easy. You can sign up for the program at GoMart.com or by going to the GoMart app and tapping on the rewards icon. Already have a GoMart Rewards card? Be sure it's registered so you can start earning your rewards, because you're not going to want to miss out on all the great freebies. Go to GoMart.com or download the GoMart app to learn more today.
We're doing exciting things at the WVU Heart and Vascular Institute in advanced heart failure, in valvular heart disease, in atrial fibrillation, and even heart transplantation. We know that if patients can achieve advanced care in their home community, they do better. We provide the entire spectrum of care, and our outcomes are amongst the best in the nation.
Visit mywvuheart.com.
It's Take Me Home 21 presented by WV Medicine. We welcome you back. Tony Caridi along with Jed Drenning. Dale Wolfley is also with us. We're with you up until noon. We're a little bit more than a half hour away from being joined by Mountaineer head coach Neil Brown. We'll get his take on the class. Also, WVU Athletic Director Shane Lyons will be in. Names continue to dot our list. We're looking for a class of 16. And we've significantly passed the halfway point on that, and we'll continue to add names. There we go right now. So we've got 13 spots now filled. We just talked with Travis Trickett about Hammond Russell, the latest in the class, and we're going to get into several other Mountaineer newcomers as time goes on. Let's bring in WVU safeties coach Dante Wright now, who joins us from the Pushkar Center. Dante, good morning to you. Welcome to your first WVU recruiting class.
Good morning. Appreciate y'all having me on. It's extremely exciting day and happy to be a part of it.
What excites you overall about this class as it was coming together? What did you like in it?
Two things. It is first and foremost the athleticism of every person in this group, whether that's O-line, D-line, DB, wideout, quarterback, doesn't make a difference. Every one of them are athletes. They have speed. And then the second thing is their mentality. We got a group of young men that are about the right things, that are you would think they'd spent years in our culture already, the way they talk to each other, the way they conduct themselves and handle business. So their attitude, and that's two things that I think are extremely important. I'm excited to see it.
A couple of young guys that we want to get into with you include Aubrey Burks, 5'11", 200-pounder, so he's got some nice size coming right out of high school. Played safety at Auburndale High. Tell us about this young man.
This young man is a do-it-all, as you can see on his film. He could play safety, he can play spear. Heck, he could maybe grow into a will linebacker one day and be a Josh Chandler extra low. But I really don't want him to leave my room in terms of that cat safety, free safety world. But he is a physical, long. His arms are like 6'3" arms. I know he's only 5'11", but he's got extremely long arms. He can run. He'll strike you. He's got unbelievable hips. He has a little bit of everything, and he's got really good football instincts, which in this league you better have, and not just be where he's supposed to be, but be able to make the play. And he is that person, extremely active.
Yeah, and he's a bully on the back end physically, right? But as you talked about, he has the ability to drop down in the slot and cover folks as well. That skill set comes part from his athleticism, but also he's very instinctive. You talked about his instincts. He seems to have a very high football IQ, recognizes route combinations, puts him in position to pounce on some things. But how about this? 4 forced fumbles in one game. That doesn't happen by accident, does it?
It does not, and it's, once again, that you said it, I said it earlier, you said it just now, and that is instincts. And he has the instinct to be able to go to make a tackle, but also see where the football is, and that's not something everybody has. And you could see guys in the NFL doing it all the time, and it's not a taught thing from a coach. That is something that young man's able to do, is just laser focus in and see that football and punch it out in the middle of a play. It's really, really impressive.
Dante, let me ask you about his growth potential. I mentioned a moment ago, 5'11", 200 pounds. What does that evolve into once he gets into the weight room?
Oh, gosh, that's what I say when I started the thing off, is you don't know what he's going to turn into, because that could be 230 pounds before you know it, and he's a extremely fast will linebacker. That could be 215 pounds, and now he stays in that safety, that cat safety, free safety world, and he is somebody that's coming down, hitting you like a linebacker, but can cover you like a corner. And that's, once again, the exciting part about him and every person in this group, that they can do so many different things, and they can turn into so many different things when they get in the hands of Coach Joseph and his staff down there, and then we get to develop them as coaches.
We bring in Dale Wolfley now, and you guys, we've been talking about football acumen and his ability to know where the ball's going. You know, Tyke Smith, who's currently having a fantastic career here at West Virginia, he has that innate ability too. You could see that there on Burks's tape. He just kind of has that feel. He knows where things are going. Wolf, what do you like what you see here?
Well, you know, Dante, when we talked earlier after a post game, we talked about how well your secondary was making the first initial tackle and not giving up yards after catch or after initial impact. And that's what I see here with Aubrey, is that he's making those open field tackles, which will be so important in the Big 12.
Oh, unbelievably important. When you watch it and you go back and see it again, watch when he gets in that open field tackle mode, he comes to balance, meaning he puts his weight exactly where it needs to be, to where he's unbelievably supported on both sides, and he can take a shot from here, he can take a shot from there. And that's something, you compared him to Tyke Smith, and him, along with a couple other guys in this group, I really could compare to that young man. And that's saying a lot. By no means am I pigeonholing him and saying that's who he's going to be. He's got to develop, but he's got a lot of those same qualities, because he is that supreme confident athlete, to where when he gets in space, he just comes to balance and he's ready to make a play and do whatever you want to do.
Mountaineer Safeties coach Dante Wright is our guest. Let's stay on that topic of really good athleticism, and a young man on this list who has signed, who's listed as an athlete, is Davis Mallinger, 6'2", 180 pounds. Again, great growth potential. Dante, can you tell us about Davis Mallinger?
Unbelievable athlete, and all of his film is going to be at wideout. And I'm hoping and praying that I can get him in the safety room and keep him there, because he really is a physical specimen in terms of athleticism. He's got great get off in terms of his takeoff from the line of scrimmage, so he's got initial burst really. He's got really, really good COD, which is change of direction, and then top end speed. He's got everything that you're looking for in an athlete, and he makes plays. He's dynamic with the football in his hands. He's got really, really good ball skills. You can see it from his 7-on-7 stuff in the summer, not this summer, but his previous summer, that he's really got really good ball skills on the defensive side of the ball. Really exciting athlete. Excited to see what he turns into. He can be anything he wants. I talked to him this morning, and that's what we talked about, is going out and achieving all of his goals. And he's got every single goal out there that is above and beyond what people maybe think. And he can go and do that because he's a superior athlete.
Well, Coach, as you so adeptly pointed out, his change of direction jumps out. Obviously, he's smooth as silk in and out of those breaks. That has potential to translate from a coverage standpoint on the defensive side. But something else that jumps out is the toughness. I mean, this kid dotted the I in some short yardage packages for Coco and just ran between the tackles and showed a physicality that I also think can translate to the defensive side.
I agree completely. That was one of my favorite things about him is that you can see, like we do point of attack tapes here, not just watching a highlight tape, and you can see him blocking and being physical on the offensive side of the football that you know he's got a little bit of dog in him. And when I say a little bit, that's probably an understatement. He's got a lot of dog in him, and that's an important at this level. You better have that. You can't just be a prima donna and be out there thinking you're just going to run by people or be able to just get people on the ground. You better have something about you that says I'm going to out-tough you, and he has that.
Yeah, that's one of the continuing themes that obviously Neil has hit on all year. It's one thing to say you're playing hard. It's another thing to compete on every single snap, and it sounds as though a lot of these guys have that intangible to compete. Dale Wolfley, what's your take?
Well, you have a 6'2" defensive safety, possibly. You know what, Dante, this kid, he's absolutely fearless to me. He goes across the middle. He goes in between two opponents, catches a ball. So we know he's not afraid. So it's so important on the defensive side to be able to go up and be able to stop the run in the Big 12. But just talk about having what it means to have safeties that have physical size but can bring the smack with them.
Oh, it really is a huge thing. I mean, when receivers have to worry about coming across the middle and somebody, you used to be able to say rip their head off back in the day. Obviously, you can't do that now. Worrying about somebody sawing them in half, and that's a big mental side of this game. Or the ball carriers that, as we all know, offenses, you talk to any offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, they don't account for a safety in the box. They say that's the job of the running back to make him miss. Well, when they have to truly worry about that, that changes your blocking schemes up, and now you become better because you free up the guys that are really meant to be stopping the run. Your linebackers and D-line, they're not staying on double teams and working all the way up to backers. That makes them change their entire game plan, and it really is a huge bonus as a defense.
Dante, if you would, how much of a value was it having the current players in your room that you used when you went out and talked to prospective Mountaineers? In other words, you got some guys that are big-time players right now out there, the Tyke Smiths of the world. Do you sell off of them?
Sell every bit of it. I mean, that is the biggest thing that we do, because as a high school or any athlete, whether it's college, wanting to go to pros, you want to be utilized in a system. And when you get to go out there and say, hey, this can be you, and look what accolades Tyke Smith's getting. Look what accolades Alonzo Adai and Sean Mahone and Nick Troy Fortune, Dre Miller are getting. It makes it simple to go in there and say, hey, guys, that really, truly can be you, and even better. And that's not something I'm not knocking the guys that we have. We talk to our guys all the time. Our jobs as coaches is to recruit people to beat them out. It's their jobs as players to make sure that they continue to improve and develop so that doesn't happen. But that's what we're trying to do, is put a better version out there. And that's when you sit there and talk to a high school kid and put it in his face and say, hey, you can be a better version of Tyke Smith if you work hard and if you develop. It really hits home.
And part of this, the recruiting game is obviously about projection, and that takes more than just watching tape on what happens between the lines. Take, for instance, Davis Mallinger. He's a track kid. He's a 200-meter kid. His time was number 16 in the nation in the 200-meter. There's an endurance element to the 200 meters. So that doesn't happen by accident either. So you have to like the fact that this is a kid who loves staying in shape, takes that physical side of things seriously. What role do other sports and things like that play when you're looking at the kid big picture?
All of them play hand in hand. I don't want to see a young man that just does one thing. It's just, I don't think it's healthy, first and foremost. In my opinion on that, doesn't matter. We won't get into that in terms of my personal opinion. But I do think that all of these sports correlate and they relate to each other and they help out each other and they benefit off of each other. Just like you're talking about the long speed and the 200-meter dash. I mean, that's huge. When now you narrow that down to a 100-yard field, now that long speed really has accelerated and got even more. So I do think they play hand in hand. I wish that more kids would play multiple sports like basketball and wrestling, really especially wrestling in this sport. But they're huge. They feed off of each other, and they really do benefit off each other.
Yeah. Okay, so from wrestling, we go to a former professional wrestler, and Dale Wolfley. Okay. Wolf, what's your take here?
You know, hey, Dante, when I'm looking at him, and I see what Brian has written about the recruiting, and he's right down the road from UCF, and he hasn't actually visited on campus, but you guys have had to do everything virtual with him. How the heck do you get a kid to run by his home place right there at UCF and then come way up to West Virginia without visiting campus and doing everything virtual?
You have real, genuine people on the other end, and that sounds like a simple answer, but when you put Coach Scott and Coach Brown and not to my own myself in front of those people, you can't fake the genuineness that we have, that we truly care about the young men, not just the football player that is out there. And that's not to say whatever other school was recruiting him, his home school, UCF, whatever it is, doesn't have those kind of people. But I'm saying that's the quality of people and human being that's sitting in this office right now. And parents can see that no matter if it's on a Zoom meeting, a phone call, a FaceTime, in person. And I know he hasn't had that, obviously, that ability to do that part of it yet, but you can see that. You can tell real from fake no matter who you are. And that's who we are here. And we sold that. We sold the family atmosphere and was able to show them proof once again that it is real, because every coach is going to talk about family atmosphere, but what are you going to do that actually backs that up? And we show them evidence of that and just continue to build relationships. That's the biggest part of recruiting. I said it when I got the job. If it comes down to one player going to this school and another going to this school, how do you win that one? You win it with relationship. I expect to have the better relationship than that other young man, and he's not going to have the ability to tell me no. And that's not what I did, because Coach Scott led this thing, and he was the daggone man, a rock star in it. That's what he did, and you see what's happened.
Dante, thanks for the insight. We certainly appreciate your time. Stay well, and we'll see you soon.
Appreciate you all. Have a great day.
You too. Take Me Home 21. We're with you up until noon today. Still to come, WVU head coach Neil Brown, Mountaineer Athletic Director Shane Lyons on deck, WVU running backs coach Chad Scott. Back with more after this. Take Me Home 21, presented by WVU Medicine.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the first round was for our fans and fans enhancement. So this next step is really important for our student athletes. It's important for them to be able to have the place that they call home each and every day in their practice and competition sites, to make sure those facilities are top quality. The second part of that is the recruiting aspect. It's to get the high-level student athlete interested in West Virginia University athletics. They're not professional athletes, so in turn, we try to help the student athletes have the best facilities to compete and train in. I think to remain a viable Power 5 institution, it goes back to our facilities, being able to recruit quality student athletes, being able to retain quality head coaching staff members. These are just part of the ingredients, for our department to continue to be a Power 5 institution and move in the right direction in the future.
At Encova Insurance, we're committed to leaving a lasting impression in all communities we serve. We support local causes that mirror the values and interests of our associates, agents, and policyholders. We partner with organizations that are dedicated to improving lives. We are committed to building something greater than ourselves. Encircling our communities with strength and support, we are Encova Insurance.
Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus brings you more than 400 exclusive live events, select conference championship events, coaches' press conferences, and original content. Sign up for Big 12 Now on ESPNplus.com/Big 12 Now.
Welcome back, everybody. And it is Take Me Home 21, brought to us by WVU Medicine. We're with you up until noon today. WVU's head coach, Neil Brown, will be joining us in a bit. WVU Athletic Director Shane Lyons on deck. Also, we'll be chatting just a little bit with Chad Scott, Mountaineer running backs coach. That's the list right now. So if you kind of go through, Wyatt Milam was the very first to sign. Actually, because of the time difference overseas, the two young men that come from Sweden and Finland were actually, they had the first chance to sign. We got a 7-hour time difference in Finland, a 6-hour time difference in Sweden, as you well know, and they had the first chance, but Wyatt Milam was the first released.
You ever been to Finland, Tony?
I've not been to Finland.
I've been to Helsinki. I overnighted there when I was playing ball in Germany, and it got dark for like an hour when I was there. It freaked me out. What I remember is the All-Star game had just been played in Pittsburgh at Three Rivers, and I was trying to find a score, couldn't find it anywhere. Yeah. Finally found the European USA Today the next morning, got a score, and then saw some highlights on some national clip. But
so that was significantly pre-internet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
significantly pre-internet.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about our second international player. Earlier, we talked with Travis Trickett about Victor Wickstrom. Now, let's go over to Edward Vestrinen. He is a 6'4", 270-pound young man from Helsinki, Finland. What do you see here, Jed?
I've played a couple different spots, but the thing about it is, Tony, his physicality jumps off the screen at each of those spots. He's sneaky fast off the edge, but again, that physicality comes in with his ability as a pass rusher. Surprisingly, good pad level. I say surprisingly because you wouldn't expect very advanced technique. Now, they have good people working with those folks, but again, there's an untapped element to getting these European kids. Now, one of the other things about it was they did some stunting. They tricked up their front sometimes, and you heard some of this talked about earlier with some of those other D linemen. That's something obviously that we like to do within our scheme. So you would expect Edward to be stepping into a situation schematically that's not completely, no pun intended, foreign to him, all right? Because he has been involved in schemes that like to show movement, but it all goes back, once again, surprising speed, burst off the edge, but there's a physical element to everything he does. He's relentless. That also jumps out. He will chase things down, a motor that never stops. So in that respect, he would seem to be a nice fit, but there's a curious element to this that excites me. There really is. I mean, this is a guy that could potentially play on the edge, could potentially slide down inside. Once again, once you Mike Josephize him, what happens when you Mike Josephize him?
Exactly.
I mean, he's another guy that when Mike Joseph gets a hold of him, who knows what he might end up looking like. So really, really intriguing.
In the book of potential development, this one will be the most interesting to watch because it's such a start off. And we'll see exactly how that goes. Let's talk about a quarterback right now, and he'll be the only one in this class, and he does have the greatest nickname of all. It's Will Goose Crowder, and he comes at us at 6'3", 190 pounds out of Gardendale, Alabama. Jed, you have great knowledge on him because his high school coach is a former teammate of yours.
Yeah, Chad Eads, who's the head coach at Gardendale High School there in Alabama, does a great job. Chad and I played together for Terry Bowden back in our Sanford days when we were with Jimbo Fisher. I talked to Chad about Goose, and he said, look, the thing about it, what's improved most was his ability to show movement in the pocket and extend plays. Okay, they had a situation where his numbers are what they are because they had serviceable receivers, but not exceptional receivers. They have a great senior class. They're going to have 5 guys, I think, signed today, but no dynamic receivers that were going to take a 5-yard hitch and turn it into an 80-yard touchdown. Otherwise, his numbers might have been better. Now, the pedigree's there. His dad was a high school quarterback. His uncle played, so did his brother. Matter of fact, his first start came when his brother was injured, back when Goose was a freshman. So this is going to be, next year is going to be the first time I was told in like a decade that there are going to be no Crowders playing for Gardendale High School. But the ball, surprisingly to me, exploded off his hand a little more than I might have anticipated. He has the touch to drop it into holes. Now, I'm not making a comparison here. This isn't a comp. But from a mechanical standpoint, one of the things that I noticed was he has a good platform and smooth delivery. There's almost a Peyton Manning-like quality to him from a platform standpoint. But again, he has the ability, when he'll move around the pocket, to reset his feet, scan the field, keep his eyes downfield, but deceptively athletic. Nice cuts when he steps up in the pocket and sees daylight, but they also used him on called runs, But again, what surprised Coach Eads the most was his ability or his improvement in the area of extending plays and escaping the pocket.
Yeah. All right, let's jump over to the Pushkar Center once again now. We're joined by Mountaineer running backs coach, co-offensive coordinator, Chad Scott. Chad, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You beat me again this morning. I looked at your first tweet. It was just after 3 a.m. Got me again. I thought it's a little after 4. I think I can get him. I look, boom, you already tweeted again today. So a busy day. Hey, what does this day mean to you, Chad, seeing the culmination of putting this class together?
Oh, it means a lot. It's those guys put in a lot of hard work to put themselves in position to, to sign a NLI scholarship to go pursue their dreams, and it's great for us too because we put in a lot of work to recruit those guys and build a relationship with them and their families, and to get them to entrust in what we're doing here at WVU and our coaching staff and the environment we have here and the direction and development we have for their son to come be successful on and off the football field. So see it all come together in one day and make some dreams come true. It means a lot.
Let's specifically talk about an individual player you were involved in. We chatted about Traylon Davis earlier. Can you give us some insight into his recruitment?
I did not with Traylon.
Well, I'm sorry. I got some bad info there. Aubrey Burks. I'm sorry about that. Let's jump back over to Aubrey Burks then, out of Auburndale, Florida. Now, that is your guy.
That is my guy. Auburndale, we're from the same area. I'm from that area. My parents and their grandparents, they all live in Polk County, where Aubrey's from. Versatile football player. I actually offered Aubrey Burks. I was the first one to offer him when he was a true freshman out of high school. So I've been following him, his development throughout his entire high school career. But very versatile football player is going to bring a physicality and versatility to the defense side of the ball that we need.
Now, Coach, we've been talking about the untapped element with so many of these kids, and Aubrey Burks will be another one. He's far from reaching his ceilings. Despite what he's already shown on the football field, there's a lot we just haven't seen out of this kid. Once you get him in the program, once you let Mike Joseph get a hold of him, once you coach him college technique, what do you think you can see out of this kid 2-3 years from now?
Oh man, I think his potential is on limit, to be honest with you, because exactly what you said. When you can get it, first of all, when you could pursue a kid like this that shows you enough on film where he can come in and be a potential elite player in the Big 12 conference at WVU, but at the same time you still know there's so much more untapped potential he has in him. That's what makes it even more exciting to coach those guys and develop those guys. Makes it even more exciting for those guys to come in and want to grasp what it is they can learn to become a great football player too. Because like this year, they put him in that Wildcat offense. He scored the first play of the game. So there's some things that this kid can do that he don't even know he can do. So it's great for him to come in and be able to be developed by Coach Joseph and Coach Adai and those guys and get him to become a great ball player.
Chad, you said he's been on your radar since he was in 9th grade. You were ready to make the offer right then. That's pretty young. What was it at that age level that made you say he's going to be good enough down the road?
Well, he was physical as a 9th grader. When you watch him play as a 9th grader, you think he was an upperclassman at that particular time. And so, when you see kids with that kind of physicality, and he was actually playing varsity as a 9th grader. Wow. So when you see kids that got that kind of physicality and the kind of the courage to go out and play at the playing speed he was playing, that's pretty impressive. And for him to continue to get better and better every year just kind of shows how high his ceiling is.
Dale Wolfley also joins us. Wolf, take it away.
Yeah, hey, Coach, what I really like about Aubrey is, you say he's a very versatile player, and he certainly is, and he can play high post, he can play down in the box, but the thing I really love is that he can disrupt the game and be a game changer by dislodging the football. I mean, that's just something that not every kid has a knack of doing, young man.
Right. That's big there, Wolf. Yeah, that's huge. Obviously takeaways is the name of the game on defense, and it's something that you work every day and, you strive for in games. And for someone to have that kind of knack to do it is huge because it's something that you work on. And if a kid has a knack, that's something you don't have to teach, man. And that's awesome. It's huge. It's a great intangible to have. And like I said, this kid been playing since he's been in 9th grade. So you're talking about a kid that's fairly smart, instinctive, and does a lot of things that he's not coached to do, so which is always good.
Hey, Chad, if you could, let's jump ahead now and get some insight into Davis Mallinger. He's a young man that we talked about a little bit earlier, listed as an athlete. What's his story?
Oh, man, very excited about that kid, man. I've been knowing about him for a while now, and I was excited to be able to get in on him. And but you're talking about a kid that's, has over 3,000 all-purpose yards, over 25 touchdowns, over 100 receptions, rushing yards, kickoff return yards, tackles, interception, pass breakups. He can do it all. And he's 6 foot, 280 pounds, and he runs 10.7, 100 meters. So this kid right here has unlimited potential with what he can do. He can play all over the football field. Also, he brings another element in the return game as well. But very excited about this kid and his speed. He has the kind of game-changing speed we need.
They're going to steal him away from you guys on the other side of the building, probably, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, it's going to be a tug of war with that kid there, man. He's that special. He really is. And this kid, he transferred schools in his last year and went to a school up the street, and and went in into a culture that where he hadn't been around for 3 years, and went there and fit in really well and excelled, and they had the ball spread around. So he's a selfless kid and does a phenomenal job competing, embraces the competition, and takes advantage of his opportunities when he gets them. And he's a big play waiting to happen.
Dale Wolfley, what do you have for Chad?
Well, Coach, when we look at this, I just talked about Aubrey Burks, being a game changer with the turnovers. How is he a game changer when you think about Davis with his speed? What does that mean in Big 12 play?
Well, that's huge, because obviously, in this conference, in our offense, defensively, we score touchdowns on defense, obviously on offense, and the one area we hadn't scored touchdowns on this year, at least from a return standpoint, is the special teams game. So what makes him a game changer is that he can go from 0 to 60 right now, whether it's on offense, whether it's an interception, or whether he has that ball in his hands on the kickoff return or punt return. And with that element of speed, it just opens up other areas of opportunity for everyone else around you, because you have to honor his speed.
Chad, we mentioned earlier that this is the most unique recruiting class that any of you have ever been involved with, because you have not been able to have the direct contact. But at the same time, you guys take pride in taking whatever the situation is and taking advantage of the situation. How did you personally make sure that you were able to take advantage of a very unique situation this year?
Well, I'll tell you what we've done a phenomenal job of was that on the front end of this deal, before it all happened, even a year ago this time, when we were actually able to get out and do home visits with the previous class, we actually done a phenomenal job of getting out and going to see these underclassmen guys, while they work out. So, and just getting our eyes on them. And, in the first, a little bit of the spring, we had a chance to get those guys here on campus. So we actually did a pretty good job, getting eyes on those guys during this particular time last year, just to have some kind of visibility on those guys. And then most of the guys are going to sign today actually had a chance to come here and visit us before the shutdown at least once or twice this spring. Yeah. So that helped us big time.
Little did you know, did you, man, that those early touches that you guys made in some cases were the last time you'd be able to get in front of them.
It really did. It made a lasting impact. A lot of the guys we're going to sign today were guys, and it was a tough deal, because last year we come off official visit weekends on, Sunday we're sending the guys off from their official visit, and then 2-3 hours later we're having a junior day. So it was tough, but you look at a year now, it paid off for us big time.
Yeah, absolutely. Chad, thanks so much for your time, buddy. We appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
You bet. Running backs coach, assistant offensive coordinator, Chad Scott. Neil Brown will be with us in just a little bit. We invite you to stay tuned, walking you through Take Me Home 21, WVU's Recruiting Day, presented by WVU Medicine.
Today tastes like staying in, like our go-to place. Tastes like anticipating, and a little bit like waiting. Food's here. Today tastes like a piece of the action, and it never tasted this good.
Holiday gifts come in all sizes and shapes, carefully crafted for friends and family to take. Some wrapped by Mom quite beautifully, some wrapped by Dad a bit simply. Some don big bows or festive ribbon, some sit in the snow, waiting to be given. But no matter how the gift arrives, everyone will enjoy the prize inside. Scratch-offs fill the holidays with fun, but hurry before the tickets are done.
You're up early.
Well, U.S. Cellular is giving away the latest phones for free with no hidden requirements, so I did not want to miss it.
Actually, you can get the latest phones free all season long.
What? All season long, huh?
Yep, and no hidden requirements.
You in the market for any camping gear? Only been used once.
At U.S. Cellular, get the latest phones free with the plan of your choice and no required phone trade-ins all season long. U.S. Cellular. Upgrade to Fair.
The air feels different on fall Saturdays in West Virginia. Familiar roads lead us on early morning drives to a place where we feel alive. And traditions bring together a fierce fan base, united by the same passion: West Virginia football. As West Virginia's bank, we've been there, and we'll continue to be there. United Bank, proud to be united with the Mountaineers.
When it comes to dementia, hope starts with early diagnosis. Hope starts here. The WVU Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute Memory Health Clinic. A team of experts in diagnosing and treating dementia and groundbreaking research seeking new ways to preserve and restore brain health. Acting early, breaking barriers, bringing hope. Don't wait. Call 855-WVU-CARE.
2 hours in the book, 1 hour to go, and in this final hour we'll be joined by WVU head coach Neil Brown and Mountaineer Athletic Director Shane Lyons. We're updating you as the class comes together. West Virginia's Take Me Home 21, presented by WVU Medicine, along with Jed Drenning. Dale Wolfley is also in the mix with us. Getting ready to chat in a little bit here with Neil. Let's go back to the beginning. If you weren't with us at the very start, we talked with Brian Bennett, WVU's Director of Player Personnel, on the first signee released by the Mountaineers, and that's Wyatt Milam. And I don't think that we can overstate the significance for a bunch of different reasons on Wyatt Milam coming into this program. So you take a look here at his tape and you can see that he is just an elite athlete. He's a road grader, a kid that can come in and will play next season, which in the past you would almost never say about a true freshman offensive lineman, but Zach Frazier kind of reset the book on that this past season. But Jed and Wolf will get you in here as well. The significance of this is you had one of the most highly sought after offensive linemen in the entire country from your state, and his list of offers are off of the chart. And he stayed home in West Virginia. I think that's significant for so many reasons.
Yeah, it was all the blue bloods that you could think of coveted this kid, and they coveted this kid for the reasons that you're looking at right now. But everything doesn't surface on the tape either, Tony. I mean, yes, everything is there in terms of the frame, the athleticism, the knee bend, the lower body power that he plays the game with, which is where you want it from this position. But in addition to that, he's just, again, talking to Coach Dingus, he's a very positive kid. He's a grinder. He always wants to finish first in conditioning drills. He's one of those kids who flips a switch between the lines. He's all smiles off the field. As soon as the helmet goes on, he's no longer all smiles. So just this was such a huge, massive, instrumental get as a cornerstone type kid for this class. And the truth of the matter is, you would want this kid no matter where he's from. But in the state of West Virginia, we all live here, we all understand that, we all appreciate both the good and the bad of it. There's not a lot of these kids anywhere, especially in a place like West Virginia. There's not a lot of kids who are going to be ranked nationally as high as they are for all these reasons that why it is. Coach Dingus has built a tremendous program down there at Spring Valley. Okay, they're producing very solid football players up and down. So to take one of the more solid football players that not just he's produced, but the state of West Virginia in recent years, maybe ever, from a prospect standpoint, has produced, you definitely want to circle the state of West Virginia. There has to be a fence up. And if there's any kid of instrumental value, we can't let those couple kids that we do have an opportunity at each year slip outside that fence. We just can't do it.
Dale Wolfley, we saw Zach Frazier come in this season and make an instant impact, and in all likelihood, he's going to be a freshman All-American, well-deserved. What has changed, in your opinion, that high school seniors can now come in and be ready to go? Is it the early January entry that gets them ready for spring and then through fall camp?
Well, that can certainly help, but I'll be honest with you. This is not normal. 2 guys in 2 years that we think is going to have an impact. One is a true freshman, and one coming in or has been a true freshman, a freshman All-American. When I look at these 2 football players, they have very unique and special abilities about them. And when I sit here and I say this, I sat there and I told Matt Moore, I said, I am shocked week by week as what I'm seeing here with Zach Frazier. Shocked. And Matt Moore said to me, Wolf, I'm telling you, wait till this other kid comes in here, this young man, and he's going to be another player like that. And when you look at his overall height, weight, and everything about him, this young man is so pro NFL. Now, he hasn't reached it yet. He's got a long ways to go. But he is a pro NFL tackle. That's what he is. And when I said originally with Brian Bennett, I was talking about the fact that he is ready to play. He's mean. He's nasty. He can pull at 6'7" and be on the same pad level as 6'3", 6'4" players and get leverage. It's so hard to come by that. So really difficult to imagine that WVU is able to take 2 kids from West Virginia as true freshmen, because I don't think this is the norm. I do not think it's the norm. I don't think you're going to see this year after year, that guys are coming out and playing the way that these young men are going to play, which I'm projecting now for Wyatt. But I do believe that he will have some type of impact in next year's offensive line. And I say that's awesome. Now, if you remember, I used to play with a lot of West Virginia young men back in my day. Back then, West Virginia, we had more players, and it's been nice to see these last few years as West Virginia kids come out and having, the talent to come up to WVU and make some impact. Really nice to see.
Yeah, those are all good points. And as you said, they don't come along often, but when they do, you better grab them. Okay, receiver room for West Virginia is about to get more talented and physically bigger. Caden Prather is something that we haven't seen here in a long time in the sense that he's got size at 6'4", 200 pounds. And when you watch his tape, it just pops. Here's a young guy from the state of Maryland, unable to play this season because of COVID-19. They did not have a high school season, but his junior tape is something special.
We've talked about this before, Tony. Look at that. What did that highlight reel start with? Special teams. Okay, a difference-making play in special teams. He's one of several kids in this class that brings that to bear. The transition units are going to be impacted immediately because of these types of kids. Now, what you're looking at here, that explosiveness, he's so decisive. The quick screen game, which is an instrumental part of any offense in the Big 12, sees daylight, hits it, and goes. You know what it does? It puts Neil Brown in position. When you have assets on the field like Caden Prather, you don't have to make a perfect call. You don't have to be the last guy with the grease pen in your hand on the board trying to trick up things so the defense has somebody streaking wide open. You can actually just let the guy play the game, do what he does, go about his business, and make plays. That's what an asset with the size and the skill set of Caden Prather gives you. I mean, these types of guys, we've seen it since we've been in this league in 2012. Every time you turn around, there's these big bodies, difference-making playmakers on the perimeter. There's a 3rd and 8 situation in a key game. You know what's going to happen. They're not going to try and dial something up. Nobody's going to be wide open. The margin for error is very finite. They're going to put the ball up in the air and say, go get that ball and move the chains and make a play. Caden Prather is that type of football player.
Yeah, and when you talk about defensive backs oftentimes and the flexibility in their hips, Dale Wolfley, he's got great balance and great ability to turn.
Think about who WVU is beating out, these other schools that are traditional, incredible top 10 elite schools to get these players. Again, I've been around WVU at times, and I'm not mentioning any names, but we're like, well, we can't beat that team. We can't beat that team there. We're not going to beat them out. Well, that's not the idea of this staff, this football staff and head coach Neil Brown, because we are going up against some of the traditional big and bad boys, and we're coming out as winners at times. And that is really nice to see. And if you look at that, just those two players we were talking about and the different players that we think that they're going to be, when you sit there and say, these young men know what's going on with this staff and this football team. They understand what's going on with this football program and where Coach Brown and staff want to take this program. And that just says kudos to where it's headed, because not all times is it always available when you're in the growing process of seeing that actual step being made here, step being made there. Again, going back to the climb, right? But with these young men, you think they know, right? Because this is their investment of their lives. This is them giving their talent and their blood and everything they have in effort to saying, I believe in you, coach and staff, and I believe where you're going. And I'm going to shun these other big schools so that we can go ahead and do this together as a program, as a team. And I think that says a whole lot about where WVU, West Virginia University Mountaineers, are headed.
Let's talk a little philosophy here, Wolf and Jed, in the sense that putting the pieces together, and we'll talk specifically here on offense. So Neil has finished up his second season, and he has got a full evaluation of what pieces he has. Obviously, a year ago, the run game was record-setting bad at less than 900 rush yards. Significant improvement this season, but still not the finished product that they want. So they go heavy here now with two more tight ends. We talked about the offensive linemen that West Virginia has picked up, two offensive linemen that look as though they're going to have outstanding futures in this program. You can see where Neil wants to go, don't you? Where he wants to become the ability to power run when needed, which we have not been able to do yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're working towards, Tony, is you're working toward body types that provide an element of physicality that transcends scheme. I mean, that's what you're looking at. You've seen Matt Campbell, from a tight end perspective, do some very good things out in Iowa State with these multiple tight end packages. Everybody has their own little wrinkle. We do some things on the defensive side that nobody else is doing. That's our little wrinkle, chopping fronts up, doing different things on the back end. So scheme can carry you only so far. This is what Coach Trickett talked about earlier. It reaches a point where you're going to need football players who step up and make a play against the guy lined up across them. And when you talk about that physical element that we're recruiting towards, that's one of the things that I'm more consistently seeing as I break down and analyze each of these kids in this class, in last year's class. Now, this, of course, as we've talked about, is the first one that we've had the benefit of a full cycle. But what I like about it, Tony, you heard Wolf talk about some of the brand names that a kid like Caden Prather was turning down and shunning to come to West Virginia. The Alabamas, the Ohio States on down the line. Named the blue blood, he had the opportunity. Well, the reason is it's relationship oriented. You heard Coach Wright talk about it. There's a sincerity there with those on this staff. Caden Prather has a relationship with Jared Parker from his days at Penn State even. Caden Prather has a relationship with Neil Brown. And what I like about what Neil does, one of the many things I like about it, when you sit in a staff meeting, we talked about this when we're on the road and sit in a special teams meeting, right? Tony, you and I talked about it after the fact. These assistants are each handling their business. They have their own transition unit. They got the laser pointer. They got the video, the big board, and they're walking the entire team. They have the captive attention, the entire team walking them through. That's a chance to see the personality of these assistant coaches. And what I know, I've said this many times and I'll say it again, Neil Brown surrounds himself with people like him. I can't wait until Neil Brown's coaching tree starts to sprout some branches. Because what I see on this staff, I see a number of future head coaches, 5, 6, maybe more on this staff right now. Now, if you're going to be a future head coach, one of the things you better be able to do first and foremost is sell your program. And that's what all these guys can do. From a recruiting standpoint, that's what all these guys have the ability to do, is sell the West Virginia brand. And that's what Neil Brown is all about.
All right, so the biggest Mountaineer salesman is Neil Brown, and he's on deck. He'll be with us when we return. Stay with us. Take Me Home 21 continues, being presented by WVU Medicine. We'll be back.
Don't miss a minute of your Mountaineers. Take MSN with you. If you're on the go, catch MSN Radio on the WVU Game Day app. Live games, coaches shows, and coverage of press conferences. The Mountaineers are on the air, and the Mountaineers are on the WVU Game Day app. Download it today and be a Mountaineer wherever you may be, anywhere in the world, digitally with MSN, the Mountaineers Sports Network.
If you're hurt in a car wreck in West Virginia, how long does it take Farmer Klein and Campbell to come to you?
We can be there quickly.
We're always nearby with offices in Charleston, Morgantown, and Beckley. And we'll drive anywhere in West Virginia to help you with your case.
Injured, we're West Virginians.
We know how to get help to you.
We're courtroom strong
and client friendly. Call Farmer Klein and Campbell.
Farmer Klein and Campbell is the way to go. Call 225-5990.
Want to earn free rewards at GoMart? Then you need to get with the program, the GoMart Rewards Program. From free coffee to free snacks, you'll earn rewards with each purchase. And signing up is easy. You can sign up for the program at GoMart.com or by going to the GoMart app and tapping on the rewards icon. Already have a GoMart Rewards card? Be sure it's registered so you can start earning your rewards, because you're not going to want to miss out on all the great freebies. Go to GoMart.com or download the GoMart app to learn more today.
I think it's important to note that the first round was for our fans and fans enhancement. So this next step is really important for our student athletes. Pushkar Center's, there's several different phases. There's 5 different phases in the Pushkar Center. You know, we're currently finishing up, we call it phase 1, which is the training room as well as the training table area. Phase 2 then goes into the locker room and the visiting locker room area. And some of this is a domino effect. One thing has to be done before the other from a building standpoint. But what it ultimately will have is a larger locker room for our student athletes. It'll also have a lounge area off the locker room for our athletes. It would include more team rooms, updated team rooms, a new Hall of Fame, which would be taken from the back of the building to the front of the building, and then new offices for the coaching staff. I think to remain a viable Power 5 institution, it goes back to our facilities, being able to recruit quality student athletes, being able to retain quality head coaching staff members. You know, these are just part of the ingredients, you know, for our department to continue to be a Power 5 institution and move in the right direction in the future.
It's Take Me Home 21, and we thank you for joining us, presented by WVU Medicine. We are bringing you up to date with West Virginia University's recruiting class on this, the first day of the 48-hour signing period. Getting used to this new December deal. One thing we're not getting used to, though, is the pandemic. It has made it for the most unusual recruiting class across college football, and specific, obviously, here at West Virginia. But the Mountaineers getting ready to sign 16 student athletes to become Mountaineers today. 13 are in. Let's go over to the Pushkar Center right now. We're joined by Mountaineer head coach Neil Brown. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen. This is maybe the first time that Tony and I have ever worn the same shirt. You know, so appreciate WV Medicine. I at least know that we both paid the exact same for this, which is nothing. But I do appreciate WVU Medicine sponsoring this. Appreciate all they do. And this is the one time that maybe I can dress as fine as Tony Caridi.
I tell you what, you are looking quite nice in that, very dapper. So, Neil, no surprises in this class. You've got a group of 16, and we've been talking for the last 2 hours and change here. The biggest thing that's hitting me is as much about speed and size and length and athleticism is, boy, you guys went to school here in the culture department, didn't you? Because you're not only recruiting physical elements here, it sounds as though you're going to have this huge influx of the kind of guys that you really can build championships off of. Is that a fair assessment that culture was key here?
Well, I think it's about evaluation, and the proof will really be a couple years down the road. But during this process, and it's a unique process, I'm sure you all have talked about it a lot, due to the pandemic and due to the restrictions, I really feel for the student athletes in this class, maybe even more so for the class of 22. The student athletes are getting recruited in that class. But, the evaluation process for us is threefold. And I think it's important for our viewers to understand is number one is can they play? So we go through no telling how many videos, and it kind of, the video goes from interns in our recruiting department to our recruiting staff. And our recruiting staff, Brian Bennett, Scott Gasper, Trey Nyer, they do a tremendous job. And then they distribute it out to area recruiters and our position coaches. And there's such a large number of video. It's always, when you watch it, the first thing is, can they play? Are they a Power 5 football player? Can they play? Can they make plays and be productive in the Big 12 conference? So that's number one. So if the answer is yes, then it goes to number two, is academically, can they do the work that's going to allow them to be successful at West Virginia and earn a degree? And if the answer to that's yes, then it goes to character. And then the character piece is really where you got to dig and dig, because you want to talk to as many people associated with each prospect as you possibly can to get an understanding, because you don't want to have surprises when you get on campus. You want to know who these individuals are, what their potential is, what they're all about, what's important to them, what makes them tick, those type of things. And we do. We wouldn't assign these guys if we didn't feel like all three of those boxes were checked: athletic ability, academic ability, and then character.
On the physical side of things, Neil, you have stressed the need for size, physical size, and length. And you start to read through these heights: 6'7", 6'4", 6'6", 6'4", 6'4", 6'5", 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", 6'5". You got real big, didn't you?
Well, we've got to get longer. And I think the last game is proof of that. We got big boyed a little bit versus Iowa State. And that's a program that's mature. They're in their fifth year there with Coach Campbell. And we were physically, especially on both sides of the line. And there's two answers for that. Number one is you got to recruit, which that's what today's about. And we feel like that we've addressed some needs on both sides of the line. Second part of that, just as critical, is our ability to develop. And we've got to continue to develop. Signing is just one piece of it, but we've got to develop them, and there's a lot that goes into development. There's skill development from their position coaches. There's strength development from Mike Joseph and his staff. There's nutrition development that goes on. So today's about recruiting, but to get where we want to get to, the development piece is going to be just as critical.
Coach, there are so very obviously so many moving parts in this whole recruiting apparatus, right? But the relationship, it all comes down to that. And you might be able to, a coach might be able to step in and mislead an 18-year-old. They can't mislead their parents. And that's the beauty of the family being involved. The sincerity that you bring to the table shines through. Now, to be able under these circumstances with the pandemic, with everything being virtual on lockdown, to be able to flip kids from quality programs under these circumstances, it's almost like asking somebody to flip a coin. That sounds easy enough. All right, now put your hands behind your back and flip a coin. And that's what you guys have somehow figured out a way to do. But I have to believe that it's so heavily predicated on the relationships that you've forged. Is that the case?
Yeah, relationships are always going to be critical in this. There's no doubt. And I think it's, you lean back on some relationships, even more so maybe in this, because you don't have the evaluation, the live evaluation, whether it's camp or within the season. And so I just think we leaned on people at the high school level, maybe in the community level of these prospects that we didn't get a chance to get a live eval on. But relationships it doesn't matter if it's getting initially involved with a kid or learning all about the kid. You're gonna use the relationships you have, and I think that was something our assistant coach did a nice job in this class.
Neil, if we could, let's start in on several of the young men that you have brought in. We have deservedly spent a lot of time here talking about Wyatt Milam for a bunch of different reasons, but if you could put into perspective what his addition to your roster means.
Well, first of all, we really made a strong attempt since January of 19 to keep our best players here, and it's my belief that he was as good, if not the best prospect within the state this year. At the time of his commitment, he was the highest ranked recruit in West Virginia history. I think he's got a chance to, as he puts on strength and adds weight, I think he's got a chance to be a dominant tackle in the Big 12. And, he's a guy that I think can be ready to play early. He's somebody that's been on our radar ever since we got this job here at West Virginia. And just tremendous family. His mom, Francie, and dad, Todd. Just great people. Very strong high school program there. They have a long history of producing top offensive line talent. And we're excited, and probably as big a piece in this recruiting puzzle as anybody.
If you could, shed some light on Caden Prather. He's another one that, from a national standpoint, is a massive signee. What does he do to your offense overall and to that receiving room?
Well, where's your question? You broke up there, Tony. Was it about Caden Prather?
Yes, sir. What's his addition mean to the program?
Yeah, he's somebody that, man, really since last summer, he came to our camp in June of last year. And from his high school coach brought him over, and he's a guy that had tremendous potential. He ran really well. He's a strong kid. He's going to look physically like a college athlete when he arrives on campus next month. He's got great catch radius. He's explosive. I thought he was the best receiver that I saw live, had an in-person eval in this class, and we saw a lot of them. We had several of them that came here. At camp, several I saw last December and January, and I felt like he was the best. And Jared had a great relationship with him as well, and he did a really good job of securing his commitment, and we were able to hang on with a lot of people pursuing him.
One of the things that I like about him, Coach, is you don't have to make the perfect call when you get Caden Prathers on the field, right? There's a little bit of margin of error, but let's jump over to the defensive side of the football. More specifically at the point of attack. Along that defensive front, when I see the names populating this class, the Braden Dudleys, I'm going to count Ja'Cory Hammett in there. When you look at Hammond Russell, Edward Vestrenin, there's versatility and there's explosiveness. So it gives you a lot to work with when you guys want to reshuffle the deck moving forward to see where each of these kids might fit.
Yeah, I think all these guys that we signed along the defensive front have the ability to play multiple positions, and I really believe this is their body is going to determine where they play, as far as how they continue to grow, especially when they get into collegiate weight strength conditioning program, collegiate nutrition program. Their bodies and where the size they get to is going to determine where they're going to best fit. But we signed them with versatility in mind.
Let's jump into the third man on our crew here, Coach, and Dale Wolfley joins us. Wolf, take it away with Neil.
Hey, Coach, I had a great class, number one, first of all. Great job by you and your staff. What I really wanted to get into is when I'm seeing these athletes that are coming in, they have so much athleticism. You've increased the size, you've increased the height, just the total output as a football player. So you're going up against more traditional blue blood schools, elite schools. What is your philosophy? Like you said, you've been able to hang on to a couple of kids like Caden Prather, but again, you're beating out schools that normally West Virginia has not beat out.
Well, I think you want to try to sign the best players you possibly can, but also the right fits. And then you got to build around needs as well. We feel like that we have the ability here to recruit against anybody in the country. That doesn't mean we're going to get them all, but we do feel like that we have the ability to go and recruit against anybody in the country. And then also, we've got to use our ability to evaluate and find some hidden gems. and find some guys that may be under the radar, that are slightly overlooked, that have a lot of potential, whether it's growth, whether they're underdeveloped, whether they're going to continue to grow. So I think it has to be a mix here at West Virginia. I think that we shouldn't bow down to anybody. We should attack and try to get the best players we possibly can, but also understand that there's been a niche here for a long time where we have the ability, all right, to go and find some guys that are maybe diamonds in the rough or guys that have been slept on. So I think there's a combination of those type of players in this class. You know, some guys I think I think Aubrey Burks is a guy that I think's a really good football player. Wolf. I think Tomas Remack from Ohio is a guy that is only going to continue to get better. Has a chance to be a multiple-year starter here. St. McLeod is somebody that from Ematep, same high school as Tyke Smith, just a really good football player. And, you know, they're maybe not getting national attention, but they're guys that I think that are really good football players that we've been recruiting for a long time, and I think they'll make a big difference in our program.
Neil, along that line, speaking of diamonds in the rough, let's go overseas for diamonds in the rough. We continue to see more and more, and it's growing and it's not going to stop, and that is international players coming over to play American football. You have been able to lock down two, Victor Wickstrom and Edward Vestrinen. If you could, give us your insight into obviously under-recruited, but guys you've had the opportunity to evaluate and see. What have you been able to do there?
Well, Victor we had in camp, and he's a guy that physically passed the eyeball test, and then he came here and not only ran really well and showed really good agility, but was able to win a lot of one-on-one repetitions, showed the ability to retain knowledge. I thought his football IQ was extremely high for somebody that hadn't played a whole lot. And so really impressed with him. He's been committed for over a year now, and a guy that I just thought was somebody that had a huge growth potential. And then Edward is a guy that we got on. We thought he had a chance to be eligible going into this fall, but due to the pandemic, we couldn't get the necessary paperwork to get him here. But he's a big, strong guy. I think he's got a lot of versatility. He's got great bend. Really leaned on Brandon Collier, who does a good job with international recruits. And we're in kind of year two of this international recruiting, and I think we're still in kind of the trial run of it. We want to see how it goes. You know, we've got a couple Canadians that have really came and been productive. We signed Jaito out of Amsterdam last year. He's he'd done some good things in practice behind some key players. So I think he's a to be determined. And then bringing in Edward and Victor, we're going to see how they do and continue to progress.
Let's talk quarterbacks real quickly. Will Crowder played with Chad Eads at Samford. Go way back with him. He has nothing but positive things to say about his guy, Goose Crowder.
He's I'll tell you this about Goose is Gardendale High School was really a 4-year starting quarterback. His brother, who went on to Center College in my hometown, actually, tell you that's kind of a small world, but got hurt during his senior year, and Will had to come in and start as a true freshman at Gardendale, and we play in a really tough region there in Alabama, and was familiar with him, was introduced to him when I was at Troy. We continued to follow his career. Sean Reagan did a great job. Will and his family came up here 2 different times before the pandemic, and just a real solid player, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. Won the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, which was very prestigious in the Southeast. He was a starting quarterback and got really rave reviews from a lot of high school coaches that I respect a great deal in the state of Alabama. So guy that can run. I think he's an underrated athlete. He can run. He's got a quick release, and he's got a really high football IQ, Jed.
Neil, one final thought from you as far as specific to your current Mountaineer team. The Mountaineers have been out since last week. Return tomorrow, correct? And then evaluation and testing will resume once again?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We shut down activities here at the football facility for a week. and really needed to do that. We had some numerous days in a row where we had positives, and then we were a number of guys out for contact tracing. So guys will come in, weather permitting. Obviously we're going through a storm. We don't want guys to be out in inclement weather, but weather permitting, we'll bring them back tomorrow evening, test, go through the mandated, whatever that looks like, and then start practicing, and Sunday find out where our bowl destination is going to be.
Outstanding. Neil, thanks so much for your time. I know you've got an official press conference later on this afternoon. Thanks for giving us the first take. Stay well. We'll see you soon.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right. You bet. Mountaineer head coach Neil Brown. We do invite you to stay tuned. WVU's athletic director Shane Lyons will be joining us when we return. Our Take Me Home 21 continues. We're with you for about another 26 minutes or so, bringing together Mountaineers recruiting class. Brought to us by WVU Medicine.
I think it's important to note that the first round was for our fans and fans enhancement. So this next step is really important for our student athletes. Pushkar Center's, there's several different phases. There's 5 different phases in the Pushkar Center. We're currently finishing up, we call it phase 1, which is the training room as well as the training table area. Phase 2 then goes into the locker room and the visiting locker room area. And some of this is a domino effect. One thing has to be done before the other from a building standpoint. But what it ultimately will have is a larger locker room for our student athletes. It'll also have a lounge area off the locker room for our athletes. It would include more team rooms, updated team rooms, a new Hall of Fame, which would be taken from the back of the building to the front of the building, and then new offices for the coaching staff. I think to remain a viable Power 5 institution, it goes back to our facilities, being able to recruit quality student athletes, being able to retain quality head coaching staff members. These are just part of the ingredients, for our department to continue to be a Power 5 institution and move in the right direction in the future.
The air feels different on fall Saturdays in West Virginia. Familiar roads lead us on early morning drives to a place where we feel alive. And traditions bring together a fierce fan base, united by the same passion: West Virginia football. As West Virginia's bank, we've been there, and we'll continue to be there. United Bank, proud to be united with the Mountaineers.
Want to earn free rewards at GoMart? Then you need to get with the program, the GoMart Rewards Program. From free coffee to free snacks, you'll earn rewards with each purchase. And signing up is easy. You can sign up for the program at GoMart.com or by going to the GoMart app and tapping on the rewards icon. Already have a GoMart Rewards card? Be sure it's registered so you can start earning your rewards, because you're not going to want to miss out on all the great freebies. Go to GoMart.com or download the GoMart app to learn more today.
We're doing exciting things at the WVU Heart and Vascular Institute in advanced heart failure, in valvular heart disease, in atrial fibrillation, and even heart transplantation. We know that if patients can achieve advanced care in their home community, they do better. We provide the entire spectrum of care, and our outcomes are amongst the best in the nation.
Visit mywvuheart.com.
It's National Letter of Intent Signing Day. Take Me Home 21 presented by WVU Medicine, and you can see the class that has officially signed with WVU. It's going to be a class of 16. Don't be worried. Don't get nervous for those 3 boxes that aren't filled yet. There are going to be some signings later on that are scheduled signings, and so that's the reason why. So if you've gotten your cheat sheet list, so to speak, your Cliff Notes version of what the class is going to be, it's still going to be that class, but it hasn't officially happened yet because there's some later signings. In fact, one won't take place until after 5 o'clock this evening. One guy that is signed on the dotted line is the athletic director at West Virginia University. Shane Lyons joins us. Shane, thanks for spending so much time with us here today. Let's jump into this. From an athletic director's standpoint, you can kind of get real overview, and then you can get real granular. But with not having success, if you don't have success on this day, on these days, you could have massive problems throughout an entire department.
Yeah, well, I think this was where it starts. You know, it starts with recruiting. We've made a big emphasis on that. Neil and his staff has done a great job of focusing on recruiting, and you know, my job is to give them the resources and the ability, you know, to be able to recruit young men here to play football. And that goes with, you know, our capital campaign of climbing higher and being able to upgrade our facilities so that the young men can show that we're investing in the football program. And then it's his job to go out and bring those young men into campus and sell them on our program and where we're heading, which is in a positive trend. And so, you know, I play a part in it, but they play a big part of bringing those young men to Morgantown.
Put that into perspective, if you would. What have the conversations been like between you and Neil when it comes specifically to football as to where West Virginia needs to be in order to have and put together a class like this one's shaping up to be?
Well, you know, this class is shaping up to be a really good one. You know, before I got down here, Tony, I mean, you know, based on the star ratings, which has been around for, you know, 20 years or so, we're ranked 21 right now based on the 16 that we're signing. As you said just a few minutes ago, we have more to sign, and hopefully those, you know, star players continue to come in here to Morgantown. You know, I think that when we talked to Neil initially about taking this job is that it was about, you know, putting a radius around Morgantown and go back into some of these states that, you know, we needed players from, and that's the Ohio, the Pennsylvania, the New Jerseys, and going into Virginia and the D.C. area and so on. And they focused a lot on that. Now we'll go south. Some of these young men are from Florida and Miami and Georgia and so on, Alabama, you know, but to go with our core and look at that. The other thing I think is great and important is going after those young men that are from West Virginia. And Neil made that very clear. If there's a young man that can play at this level, and we're going after them and to sign. So we have a couple that we've signed in the last couple of years. We'll continue to focus on that as well.
And it's not just confined when you talk about the kids from West Virginia to the offer sheets from a scholarship standpoint, but the PWO, the Preferred Walk-On Program, prioritizes West Virginia kids as well. There's a value there. But Shane, you talked about the star ratings. Well, one of the things that obviously directly impacts the star rating is how coveted a kid is. When you look at the offer sheets that we're competing against with some of these kids, I mean, they are the bluest of blue bloods. Right. Now, you don't sway those kids to come to West Virginia over those other offers without everybody pitching in, everybody doing their part. One of those things you alluded to earlier, obviously, these upgrades and facilities are instrumental in terms of impacting 17, 18-year-old kids. You talked about that capital program. That capital program is always going to be a challenge or anything like it is. But under the circumstances of a pandemic, wow, you talk about a real challenge. Everything's been different. Everything's been more difficult. How do you go about your business under these new circumstances?
Well, we had to change the ways that we were doing things, Jed. And again, the coaches did a great job of virtual, just working through that. And everybody's on the same page. So we didn't have a disadvantage compared to another institution. So technically across the country in all sports, it's a dead period. And what that means is student athletes or prospective student athletes can't come onto campus. And so, you know, how did you talk to these student athletes? How did you use the virtual aspect to give them tours of campus, tours of the facilities, and have a lot of contact with these prospects? What's interesting, you're going to see changes nationally in the recruiting calendar. You know, if there's anything positive, and there's very few things positive coming out of this pandemic, you know, for college athletics, it's a matter of we can maybe do more in a recruiting aspect of using technology than we ever have before. So I think you're going to see some changes in recruiting calendars in the future, but these guys have done a great job of staying in contact with these prospects, showing them what West Virginia has to offer, showing them what we're going to be in a couple years, and growing this program to something really special.
Yeah. Back when Dale Wolfley signed, they used a chisel and a big piece of stone. Let's jump in here now. Wolf, take it away with Shane.
Yeah. Hey, you know, Shane, I tell you, you've always been football savvy, and you're tied into the Big 12, and you're you know, dealing with all the regulations and how the Big 12 is going. But I want to get back to the actual recruiting part, because you must feel proud of the fact that you hear that Neil Brown and staff really have beat out a lot of blue blood programs by relationship, and that just says a lot about who Neil Brown is, the football staff, and really, you hired them.
Yeah, again, I look at it as somebody fitting our culture and what our culture can be. And Neil has been met that criteria of what I think a football team program is going to be like. And it's just not about football. It's about life skills and growing these young men. You come here as a boy and you leave as a man, and that's what's important. And he's put in so many different programs and talks about it of how we can, help develop the young man on the football field. But if they don't have the skills to go to the next level, how are we preparing them for life after football? And that is, trying to get jobs and career fairs and whatever it may be. So, when you're talking to a young man and their parents are saying, this is what I'm going to do, and you touched on it there, Wolf, it's all about relationships. And he has proof that he's done that every place he's been is developing these young men and its relationships. It is about football. That's why they're coming here, but it's more than football. It's about their experience. It's about life after football, but it's also if they can develop into those caliber of athletes that can go to the next level in the NFL, that's what we want to do as well.
The battle to compete in recruiting never, ever stops. It never changes. Right now, you're in the midst of a massive rebuild of the Pushkar Center, which really had not been touched in big form since it was built back in 1980. Man, is it coming along beautifully. You now make that turn in from Don Nehlen Drive, and the full glass that's there and that massive monitor that they haven't even turned on yet, which is going to catch people's eye when they drive down Don Nehlen Boulevard. Those are going to be just massive, I would think, when we get back to having on-campus visits.
No, and that's, you all have heard me talk about it several years ago in the vision that I had for the football program, what it can be, and the facilities is coming to fruition. And I really believe it's a game changer. It's not the only thing that entices these young men, but it's part of just what we're doing as a program, and it has to show the parents and the prospects that we are investing in this program, and that where we want to go, further and deeper. And so when we talk about recruiting and looking at the schools that we are going up against, the Ohio States, the Penn States, the Virginia Techs, the Marylands, just in this area and also nationally. I mean, you see some of these kids that we're signing that, you mentioned, Jed, that you had some schools, the Alabamas, the Michigans, and just some of what people consider the blue bloods. We're going up against those, and that's what I love about this staff is we don't care who's recruiting. We're going to go after you, and we're going to bring the kid here, show them what we have to offer, show them our culture, what we're about as West Virginia football. And, I think in the future it's very bright with some of the prospects that we'll be able to get.
Now, there are 1.8 million people sitting at home right now that can't conceive of the notion of a kid picking somewhere other than West Virginia, right? I mean, they all know the pitch. Tony knows the pitch. I know the pitch. We all know it. We love it. We can sell it. We know what West Virginia has to offer. As a guy who has stepped outside the state and done big things, you've been at schools ranging from Texas Tech to Alabama, okay? There are kids out there watching today on this monitor that are teammates of some of those kids who are signing with us today. What is that pitch from Shane Lyons?
Well, the pitch is about coming here and developing as a player and developing as a young man. And our biggest people that can recruit is obviously Neil and his staff, but it's also the student athletes who have been here and that are currently here. When they come in for visits, they hang out with those guys and talk about their experiences as a student athlete here at West Virginia and what it means. We can talk here at West Virginia, which is true, about 1.8 million people, the flying WVU flag, flying all over the state, all the way from, Weirton all the way down to Logan, and the support that we get. But until they're here and they feel it and they see it and they can kind of touch it, that's what's important. And knowing that, as an athletic director, we care about these young men and coming here. And I tell them, and we will have several graduates here at this weekend, I guess, but it's more than that, is to be able to walk across that stage. And it's about playing football, but it's also about getting an education and having a wonderful experience when they do it.
We've all heard the statement, and it becomes almost cliche, once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer, but I thought that John Thornton, former Mountaineer, whose son Jalen is now on the team, he narrated a video that would have been used for Seniors Day, and he had a line in there that said, "This place never leaves you." And I just think that's so true. I mean, you talk about those guys that have had that experience and ladies that have had that experience in athletics. It never leaves you. You may go away, you may always want to come back. It just never leaves you. Dale Wolfley, perfect example, right? You come from New York State, among, a lot of guys. It never leaves you, and that's, I think, the greatest selling point that West Virginia has. It will change your life forever. That's the biggest thing. Wolf, give me your light on that take as far as what it's done for you, what it's done through the years as part of the Letterman's Club. You're talking with these guys all the time.
Yeah, TC, and boy, I tell you, John just said it all. It really does not leave you. And for me personally, West Virginia has, ever since my brother Ronnie came in 1981, and I came down and I saw what West Virginia was all about, WVU, and you just grow in there. And so I've grown, and I came with my brother Ronnie, and then I went ahead and played, and then I went on the coaching staff, and then became a staff member. And it's been there. I know all of these guys and the girls because, I'm head of the WVU varsity club, so it reaches out to all varsity sports. And the really awesome thing is when you see all of these former athletes, these former student athletes, and they've all worn that WV in their chest, their helmet, their back, somewhere that WV has been on there, and they've represented WVU, and they've represented the state. That does not leave you. And that is what John Thornton is talking about, and that legacy, because this university, this state means so much, and there's so much that goes on involved with trying to be successful and for this program, for the university, for the people. And there's really nothing quite like it. And to be quite honest with you, it has affected my whole family. So with that being said, I'm very, very grateful and pleased to be a part of WVU.
Let's have Shane put your football oversight hat on now. You're chairman of the Football Oversight Committee that has taken on the biggest challenge in the history of college football since the 1918 pandemic, for that matter. Shane, first off, as far as WVU goes right now, we were in a shutdown until tomorrow. Student athletes return tomorrow. Testing begins tomorrow. What is your thought, your expectation as we move towards Sunday when bowl invitations will be formally announced?
Right. Before I answer that background that Wolfley has, if that doesn't get you just excited to see that Mountaineer field, the state, the band, all that's what it's all about. And that's what, Mountaineers, and you have to feel. That's why I talk about the feel. But coming in here as a prospect, seeing that and having the fan support is something really special. Going with the football oversight and going to the question, Tony, of last week and what we went through. Again, I'm very proud that we completed 9 games. If somebody told me back in September that we would finish 9 games, I would have taken it in a heartbeat. We didn't know, and you didn't have that crystal ball as an oversight committee as we started this, and we knew there was going to be challenges. We knew there were going to be postponements and cancellations. As a whole, we completed roughly 83% of the games in college football. Again, if I look back as in August and chairing that committee, and you said you can finish 80 to 85% of the games, I'm going to say, count me in. Yeah. So, that's the important thing. I think the focus originally was look at how many games were being canceled, and I talked to some national media. Said once you flip that and say look how many games are being played, but. Unfortunately, if we didn't lose the November 28th game and it was Oklahoma's situation at that time, we would have gotten all of our 10 games in. And it worried me the day that I got the phone call that they weren't traveling, and then I knew there was going to be 2 weeks in there. Then I was like, what does this look like in that week? So we traveled to Iowa State, not our best performance by any means, and then we come back and we had a young man that we found out that was positive. During that trip the next day, he tested positive. And then I think Coach Brown talked about this. The next day it was another couple athletes, and then it was another couple athletes on Tuesday, and then it was 3 or 4 on Thursday. And based upon my discussions with other athletic directors around the country, and when they had to shut down, sometimes you waited too long. So it was a matter of, do I shut this down now, or do we keep trying to play, get to Oklahoma, and now we have a serious outbreak. So, tough call, but I had to make the call, and say, with Coach Brown to say, you know what, let's try to preserve the right to be able to go to the bowl game, which we will get a phone call on Sunday to tell us where we're going, or do you take the risk of continuing trying to play? You have a lot of young men, that would potentially get the virus. So we made the call, with contact tracing and everything. We had roughly 35 to 40 student athletes out. So we made the call, let's shut down, give it a week, bring them back on the 17th, retest, get back ready for the ability to play in the bowl game, especially with those seniors. That's who I hated it for, not having that last game. But the bowl game will be the opportunity for them to play and wear that gold and blue one more time.
Shane, last question. You mentioned the bowl invitation, pending Sunday. The landscape constantly changing under our feet, difficult to forecast anything. What's your vision of what that might look like? I mean, it's a guessing game, I get it, but is it somewhere between a typical road game and a typical bowl game? I mean, I can't imagine throwing your family on a plane to an exotic location for a week under these circumstances, right? The truth's probably somewhere in the middle. How do you see that?
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's the truth somewhere in the middle. I mean, it's probably going to lean a little bit more probably to just a normal road game, just given the fact that, you're trying to keep these young men and your coaching staff, everybody in the bubble. Depending where we go, some states and some bowls are going to allow a limited amount of fans. And, if it's Phoenix, I'm told, in Arizona, they're not allowing fans. So it's going to depend, what bowl site that we're going to. But it's not going to be your normal go out there for 3 or 4 nights and, have a lot of functions and different things with the other teams. It's more, going to be going to the hotel. And the bowls are going to do some things, I think, that will give, a little flair to their city and who's hosting it, but it's not going to be a lot of the entertainment factors that we're used to.
Shane, appreciate your time very much.
Thank you, Tony.
Fingers crossed we all get healthy here and keep this thing going.
Yeah, let's go Mountaineers.
WVU Athletic Director Shane Lyons, we invite you to stay tuned. One more segment. We'll wrap up our production. Still Neil Brown's press conference later today. You'll be able to find on WVUsports.com. Take Me Home 21, presented by WVU Medicine. We'll be right back.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the first round was for our fans and fans enhancement. So this next step is really important for our student athletes. It's important for them to be able to have the place that they call home each and every day in their practice and competition sites, to make sure those facilities are top quality. The second part of that is in the recruiting aspect. It's to get the high-level student athlete interested in West Virginia University athletics. They're not professional athletes, so in turn, what we try to help the student athletes have the best facilities to compete and train in. I think to remain a viable Power 5 institution, it goes back to our facilities, being able to recruit quality student athletes, being able to retain quality head coaching staff members. These are just part of the ingredients, for our department to continue to be a Power 5 institution and move in the right direction in the future.
At Encova Insurance, we're committed to leaving a lasting impression in all communities we serve. We support local causes that mirror the values and interests of our associates, agents, and policyholders. We partner with organizations that are dedicated to improving lives. We are committed to building something greater than ourselves. Encircling our communities with strength and support, we are Encova Insurance.
Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus brings you more than 400 exclusive live events, select conference championship events, coaches' press conferences, and original content. Sign up for Big 12 Now on ESPNplus.com/Big 12 Now.
Well, we only have the studio reserved until noon, so they're asking us to leave. No, just kidding. Actually, we have it till 12:30. No, so there you go, folks. Take Me Home 21 looks like this officially right now, and you can see there are 13 Mountaineers that have just joined the family, with 3 more still to go. As I said a few moments ago, don't get nervous on those. They're in. It's just a matter of allowing them to make the official announcement and the official signing. And so we'll depart now. Let's first send it out to Dale Wolfley. Dale, just give me your overall take on this class, which has shaped up for West Virginia. It'll be 16, but let's keep this in mind, folks. Again, like never before. We've been talking about like never before because of the pandemic. Like never before, there also is going to be instant eligibility for transfers. And so that's going to be huge. Keep that in mind, because this class can grow, but it may be players, student athletes, that have already been at other schools, and that could make a huge, huge difference. Wolf, give me your final takeaway on this class.
Well, I'm very thrilled with the class. You never know how it's going to portray and end out. You just don't know it. Nobody has a crystal ball. But you can go by probabilities. And with this class, and the probability is it's going to be very strong. It's going to be a class where you're going to have many more versatile players that can do many more things for you as a football team. Just real quick is that if you want to run the ball, you got extra tight ends in there, maybe that we talk about that 11, 12, 13 personnel, or you can go to big receivers and Caden Prather, guys that you can make a big strike down the field. All those things, you have options, and that's what these players give you, are better options than what they've had. This is a step up. This is a step in the climb. Very excited. Hope you guys are too.
Yeah, absolutely. True to the point. You know, one young man that we have not jumped into at all, before we do go away, I want to, Braden Dudley.
Yeah, Braden Dudley as a kid, we use the word versatility. He has tremendous burst off the edge. He's explosive. He's a kid out of Mill Creek High School in Georgia, played against some solid competition. Often Tony overwhelmed that competition. I have in my notes here, he plows through blocks to grab things from the backside. What that means is he's a very high motor kid. And the other thing is he's high alert, very, very alert. He's a high football IQ kid. One of the things I like seeing in a defensive lineman as a prospect is you understand if you're not going to get home, if you're not going to make the sack, get your hands in the air and impact the play, deflect the football, bat the football. He did that. Again, I mentioned he's a hustler. That's going to matter with so much of the quick game, the perimeter game in the Big 12. He's not afraid to fly sideline to sideline and make plays. Another guy that could add weight and be a major problem as a disruptor on the inside. He comes in about 6'3", 2.5 bills. But again, let Mike Joseph get his mitts on that kid. Who knows what he might turn into. This is a great kid, a great get. Played for Coach Josh Lovelady down at Mill Creek, was an all-state player. Okay, only played 3 games as a senior. He had a shoulder injury, but he had offers that were solid as well, both academic and otherwise. I mean, just a solid kid, solid character, high character, but once again, let Mike Joseph get a hold of him, and this could be really fun.
All right, so congratulations to Braden Dudley, the newest member among the 13 that have already signed to this football recruiting class. Final takeaway from you on this class, Jed?
I see a lot of athleticism, a lot of length, but again, I go back to the development component of this. I mean, basically what Mike Joseph's looking at is 16 balls of clay. that he's going to dig his fingers into. Now, some of these kids will have an immediate impact, as we talked about. But once Mike Joseph and that strength and conditioning staff get a hold of them, that impact will only grow over time. But I can't say enough about the character component. When I talk to these kids' coaches, one after the other, great kid, great citizen, great student, great leader, that is what we're populating that building with. Neil understands that better than anybody. That in itself is going to pay dividends.
All right, you can see Jed's lunch is ready. Cough drops and coffee. He's ready to go. Special thank you to all the people behind the camera, Joe Webb, Scott Bartlett, Chris Austin, Sean Mariner, and the rest of the crew, for everyone involved. Thanks so much for being with us. Again, continuing coverage available to you at WVUsports.com. Neil Brown press conference will be there later this afternoon. So on behalf of everyone, thanks for being with us. Take Me Home 21, West Virginia University's recruiting class signing day, presented by WVU Medicine. Stay well, everyone.